Live betting reaction to all of the night's action. You're tuned in to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. VSiN Live.
Filling in for Patrick Meagher, here's Tom Byrne and Dustin Swedelson.
What's happening, everybody? That's right. Welcome in on a Friday, April 18th. Adam Lockley, Ryan Smith, part of the program tonight as well. The great Patty Mawa has the night. So it's me and the big guy. Old Dusty, feels like we've done this before, no?
Might have been a time or two where we tried to push some betting content here on Channel 82. It was a long time ago, though, Tom. It was a long time ago, so we'll rehash those memories here.
We got the suits there eventually, man. We convinced America, you know what? It's worth talking about a little bit. And thank God you could play the game tonight because let's be honest, this Hawks-Heat game does not have a hell of a lot of intrigue. Now, I did take the Hawks +1. Laying $1.06. I think that number's gone, but that's not a huge swing. So even at this point, if you wanted to get in on Atlanta, I don't think that's a bad idea. I know you did the same. What prop do you have for us tonight? You're Mr. Prop. I'm more the guy who bets down, the old school way. You're the prop guy.
So first off, I rarely bet an NBA side. NBA sides to me might as well be hieroglyphics. I'm normally way off in this, but I saw you were on the Hawks, and I saw a lot of people were on the Heat, and I understand why. You look at the defensive metrics, everything says Miami. You look at the coaching edge, obviously it's Spoelstra. They have a few more weapons. Hawks are really banged up going into the playoffs. The Jalen Johnson injury really hurt them, and as a bettor, you know this. When it seems so obvious that it should happen, that the Heat should win this game, the opposite is always going to happen. And the betting splits over at VSiN.com confirmed it for me. That was the last piece I needed to jump in. So it's one of those contrarian plays where you think it looks like Miami is the better option. The reality is the money's coming in on the Heat. I'm looking at Circa Sportsbook in Vegas. That is where the sharpest action is. VSiN.com has the betting splits for you if you become a pro right now. 61% of the money on just 37% of the bets. That means bigger bets are being placed, taking 2 points with the Hawks at home. I took +2, Tom. I also think maybe it may be worth a flyer at overtime, 11-1. I think we're going to get a close game. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a close game. 11-1 jumped out to me, but from a player prop perspective, we're going to look at Khalil Ware, the big for Miami, over 17.5 points, rebounds, and assists. That front court for the Hawks completely depleted. He had 19, 22, and 26 combined last three versus Atlanta. He had 19 and 22 minutes versus the Bulls. I think there's just a spot where Ware dominates the glass.
Yeah, I could see that. I love doing the spread bets. You know that. More than anything else, more than totals, more than props. Yeah, I'm kind of old school that way. I like to model it. This is the Vegas Stats Information Nerd Network, correct? So I can nerd out a little bit. Is that? Yeah. No, I love VSiN. I listen to VSiN as much as I do, man.
No, you were a VSiN super fan before I was.
100% right. You know that. So I still model this thing. Estimated plus minus predictive metric, Darko predictive metric. I made it 2.5. I don't love Atlanta. I don't think either of these teams are going to be a factor against Cleveland. Let's make that real clear. But I thought so in the first game too. But for tonight, I do think there's a little value with the +1 Atlanta. Again, I know some money has come back in on the Hawks now. You'd have to lay a point, but we'll have some fun with that tonight. I also have a couple baseball plays. It's this time of year, Dustin, where the baseball kind of goes on the back just a little bit, back burner, right? Because you're handicapping the NBA, maybe even the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll do some of that tonight, believe it or not. But I do have some plays, and we are oppo to start tonight. I love it. Give me Baltimore first 5. Give me them in the full game. I laid $1.50 to $1.55. What price did you get the Reds at?
I got +143 first 5. Look, I know Abbott, the metrics don't say he's a very good pitcher, but I think he's been solid since he's been called up to the bigs a couple years ago, just one start this year. It's one of those spots where I don't think Baltimore's felt themselves out yet. We haven't seen the true Orioles, the team that I thought would win the World Series this year. The offense has been a bit inconsistent. I think they benefited recently from playing a Cleveland team that just can't get out of their own way at times. So I went and took Cincinnati, where I think this game is closer to a coin flip, Tom. So I thought +143 was just a really big number on a 50-50 game because I absolutely positively do not trust Cade Povich as far as I can throw him.
No, it's not a great pitching matchup either side, in my estimation. Andrew Abbott, Cade Povich. I'm looking at some of their skilled or active ERA numbers. I mean, one thing that sticks out to you if you look at weighted runs created plus is Baltimore is a much better lineup over the last 365. They would be 4th in Major League Baseball, Cincinnati 27th. But we'll have some fun with that on the opposite side of things tonight. We'll make sure you guys are up to date on the live numbers as well. Maybe we'll even have some fun. Have a family VSiN Live in-game better, too, as we move it along. Probably not on Baltimore, Cincinnati, obviously, and maybe not even on Atlanta, Miami, because we're both already on Atlanta pregame. But how about the second game? Any action there?
Oh, later tonight with Dallas and Memphis. Well, one, we have to watch this number. I don't know if something's going on, but it dropped to 5.5. I'm seeing it back up to 6. Ja Morant would be the reason why that line would move. I think he got an injection yesterday is what I read on his ankle. So he's expected to play. You have to imagine a superstar like that isn't going to miss a moment like this, a chance to go to the playoffs. But I do have a couple plays, and one is going opposite of something that happened last time out, and that is the under on Zach Edey, 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists. It's one thing to get 17 boards against Golden State's front court. They don't have bigs. They don't have guys who can match up with him. He's now going to take on a Dallas team where, say whatever you want about our guy Nico Harrison, Tom, but the one thing he has is plenty of front court size. He's got big men who can deliver. He's got a lot of big bodies to throw at Edey. Edey labors on the offensive end. I think he'll get plenty of rebounds, but I'll combine everything and go under 24.5 because I don't think he's scoring against that Mavericks front court. So under on Zach Edey tonight. That's the play.
Sounds good to me. Again, I do the spread, the money line stuff, whether it's the negative binomial distribution with the baseball, the Poisson distribution with the hockey, the NFL. It's a little different. NBA, a little different as well. My numbers told me Memphis -6, but you mentioned the Ja Morant news. I mean, that's big. I didn't know that. I played it right out of the chute, laid the 6. I wish I would have known Morant is banged up as he is. You're 100% right. He's going to play. Questionable in the regular season means they're not playing. Questionable in the postseason means they're playing. But this guy is relying on his athleticism more than anybody. If he's compromised, I don't know that I love my ticket at all, quite frankly, laying 6.
Yeah. Also, wouldn't you say there's a lot on the line for Ja Morant here? Taylor Jenkins fired, a lot of issues, obviously. They just keep compounding. You have to wonder if the Grizzlies are saying, you know what, we'll take pennies on the dollar and just move on from the headache that is Ja Morant. I know it does feel like they gave him the keys to the car, though, right, Tom? Like, it feels like he's in control of the organization. But for him, he's got to win some games that matter here. So I think it's a big spot for him. I did take the points with Dallas, but I got a bad number. I got 5.5. So I may be wrong there. We'll see how it plays out. But I do think this is a spot where I don't necessarily trust Memphis. And while it's the play-in, while there's a spot in the playoffs on the line here, it does feel like the way they came back and lost against Golden State, then, 2 days later having to get back up, I question if maybe there's some sort of emotional letdown for them because they thought they were going to come back and beat the Warriors. And now all of a sudden they're facing elimination.
Right. Can we find a book that gives us odds on if there will be a gun celebration with Ja? Is that available? Can we find an outdoor book?
It would probably have to be a weapon celebration because, he's mixed in grenades now, too. He's not just a gun guy anymore.
Listen, if I get plus money on that prop, count me in. This guy doesn't care, man. It's almost like he's trying to rub it in Adam Silver's face at this point.
Our Atlanta bet has some issues, Tom. The Miami Heat are off to a 10-0 start right now to start things off. Miami 10 straight, and we have a timeout very early in the contest.
And this has been the theme of these playing games. We've had one outstanding game. That was Memphis Golden State. Every other game has been an abomination. And here we go again, 10-0 right out of the chute. So Miami, you'd have to lay 5.5 at $1.30 on Miami right now. And you come back with a plus 5.5, 102. So there you go. We are not in good shape. Any interest in doubling down on your Hawks love tonight?
No, I have a general rule with these bets, Tom, being that you can lose so many of them. If I'm already losing one on a game, I'm not going to double down. If I had no action, I would think about Hawks plus 6.5 or 2-1 on that money line, just because they're at home. They'll start hitting some shots.
Oh, way to go.
They're the best over team, or one of the best over teams in the NBA this year. So obviously shots will start to fall, but you don't love the start if you're just catching 2. I'll tell you that. I don't feel great about where we're at.
No, not at all. Not at all. Trae Young better get it going quickly. The three-point shooting in the NBA, so many teams take them. It leads to, in a way, tougher handicapping because there's so much variance involved when you shoot that many threes. But that's why I like looking at 3-point less efficiency numbers, too, to give you a better feel. But maybe Atlanta just goes off at this point. Frankly, we might need that. The other thing I think is interesting when it comes to handicapping the NBA, too, guys will ask me sometimes, Mad Dog Sports Radio tonight, home court advantage. And I hear even folks here on VSiN don't really get this right. You can't be handicapping with the same number in the postseason as you are in the regular season. I'll give you a perfect example. This year in the regular season, home court was worth 1.7 points per 100 possessions in the regular season. Last year in the playoffs, 5.1. Now, keep in mind, the home team typically is the better team. They get more games, so it's not really 5.1, but you get the idea. Home court means a lot. Then again, if you're watching this playing, you're probably saying, no, it doesn't, Tom, because the home teams oftentimes are getting killed. And so we'll keep an eye on that. But that is something to keep in mind. I don't know if you got to go as nuts in like the NHL, for example, maybe a little bit more than the regular season baseball. But the NBA home court in the postseason typically means a lot.
I think the general point, though, is well taken. In the playoffs in the NBA, everything changes. The data that you had in the regular season is completely irrelevant. One is my biggest way that I handicap the player props in the NBA, Tom, is it's 90% based on if a player's out, who benefits. And that could be a player on that player's team or the opposing team because a good defender's now out of the lineup. That's 90% of how I bet my player props. Then you add in the fact that in the postseason, these benches shorten up a ton. The defense steps up. The refs call it a little bit different. They allow for intensity. They allow a little more physicality. Because of that, I think unders are more in play when it comes to props, when it comes to games. And because of that, I don't know what to do with the sides. I'll be honest. I am very, very bad at betting NBA sides. I am more likely to hit a prop or hit a total than I am an NBA side.
Well, we'll work well together. I'll handle the sides, you handle the props. I got Memphis -6. I don't love it, though, I'll be honest, and I certainly don't love my +1. Reduce Vigo and Atlanta down 10-0. The only other game I'm currently on is Houston +1.5. That number's long gone, though. Now you got to lay 1.5. Although that's not huge, I wouldn't go that far. So we'll see. Maybe CLV goes to die there. But I do think Houston's going to be scrappy in this series. That's one of the better series. I think that, obviously, Memphis-Lakers series has the potential to be phenomenal. All the series in the West could be great. The East, we're all waiting for Boston and Cleveland. Now, that doesn't mean you can't find some edges along the way, but we're all waiting for Cleveland. We're all waiting for Boston. At the end of it all, I'm sticking with my preseason prediction. It's going to be Boston, Oklahoma City. Welcome, Captain Obvious, but it is going to be Boston, Oklahoma City. And I got some exactas, to say the least, in the NBA final.
All right, let's talk that out real quick. Just because from a Boston perspective at +190, I think we're all going to be kicking ourselves when they just cruise into the finals. You could have hedged that ticket. You could have got a lot down. I think Boston, it's funny. I don't know where you were on them a year ago, but I made fun of them a lot because, the narrative on Tatum and Brown was they couldn't get over the hump. They weren't winners. Mazzulla was the weirdest coach of all time. Now I've completely flipped the script. Tom, I completely believe in Joe Mazzulla. I think he is a psychological mastermind. I think he's an X's and O's tactician. I am all in on the Celtics. I think that what the Cleveland Cavaliers did during the regular season was really cool. It was really special, but they cared about the regular season. No one else cares about the regular season. We have to stop thinking teams that succeed over the course of 82, that somehow translates to the playoffs, because most of these teams, they only want to win rings. They don't care about being the 1 seed or the 2 seed. Just get me to the dance, and I know I'll finish the job.
And you're not wrong. Yeah, Boston's going to win this thing. I do think Cleveland could push in the distance. Again, they do have the home court. We just talked about home court being important. But these are the same guys that in the past have had to admit that they've been deer in the headlights in a big spot. So it's hard to trust Cleveland too much. Yeah.
How about Oklahoma City, though? Because I keep getting crushed, Tom. Everyone we talk to on the show, everyone loves the Thunder. Everyone tells us analytically they're elite, they're historic, two-way team. And I just think there's too many teams that have some characteristics that they don't in the West, because I am nervous for the Thunder, the lack of veterans on the roster, proven scorers in the final 2 minutes outside of SGA that you can rely on in crunch time. I think that matters. And I think size will be an issue. I love Hartenstein. I like Chet Holmgren. But if you face a team that has a lot of bigs to throw your way, I'm concerned about the rebounding against them. So I just think the West is too difficult to assume. Laying a price on the Thunder right now, I just couldn't do it.
Two things can be true at the same time. Oklahoma City should definitely be the favorite, but staying away from laying a big price on Oklahoma City in the West might make sense. And the other thing I wouldn't love if I'm back in Oklahoma City, which I am to an extent, that 4-5 matchup, Clippers and Nuggets, and that opening price was so off. I'm on the Clippers like a lot of other people who handicap the NBA a lot. I didn't get that opening price at all. Now, they do have Nikola Jokic, so if I end up ripping up that ticket, it wouldn't be a shocker. But I would argue that both those teams are better than anybody else, including Golden State, including the Lakers, and that's who Oklahoma City has to go through in round 2. And so you're not going to get a cakewalk even against the 8 seed. You're certainly not going to get a cakewalk against either Denver with Jokic, and that means playoff Murray has shown up if they advance, or the Clippers with Kawhi, Harden, Zubac, and Powell. You're right about that. It's going to be much more intriguing in the West. By the way, our Hawks on a nice 10-2 run here. We're not dead yet.
We're not dead. Basketball's
Typical
a game of
NBA.
runs. Basketball's a game of runs.
NBA.
You know how I say that? Everyone who's ever covered basketball said that at some point, so I just copied them, Tom. I just know you're supposed to say basketball's a game of runs. I have a question about the Clippers, though. Is there a case to be made that the single most important body part in the NBA postseason history is Kawhi Leonard's knee? Because if his knee holds up, that is a different ball club. If his knee doesn't hold up, they're getting smoked by whoever's in front of them.
Yeah, there's 2 of them. One's in the East, one's in the West. One in the East is Embiid. The one in the West is Kawhi. I mean, you could never handicap whether they – and he might go down in the first round. It's happened recently a couple times.
He might sit out a game, Tom. He might just say, I'm not available.
It wouldn't shock me, man. It wouldn't shock me. I am on the Clippers, though. Not in game 1, but in the series. I couldn't believe Denver opened a 2-1 favorite. All right, we'll take your phone call tonight. 888 Mad Dog 688-623-3646. We'll be on top of all the games. We'll give you some live numbers to have some fun with. When we come back, though, little NFL draft just 6 days away. We've heard from the drama queen, Aaron Rodgers. Should the Steelers move on and just rid themselves of any idea of Rodgers? That's next. Dustin Swedelson, Tom Byrne. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio 82.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Tom Byrne and Dustin Swedelson.
All right, the NFL draft is just 6 days away. It's hard to believe. I love the draft. Two of my favorite sports, college football, NFL, collide. We all get into it. It's been a cash cow for bettors for a long time if you have access to offshore books. Not all states allow it. Where I am in Pennsylvania, Dustin, the books don't accept the exchanges. You can on ProfitX, but not a lot of liquidity. Not as easy as you might think to bet the NFL draft, but it's also not the cash cow it once was. Even if you think you have the information, you don't really know. But I am looking forward to that. And I think one of the more intriguing topics is going to be whether or not Pittsburgh ends up trying to get themselves a quarterback. Because, man, if you're a Pittsburgh backer, you're already annoyed with Rodgers. And I know he went on Pat McAfee and told us, well, I'm not really holding anybody hostage. They know what's up. Dude, the draft is 6 days away. Of course you are. They need answers. Cam Hayward bitched and moaned about him 3-4 weeks ago. And he still hasn't made a decision. I didn't get the vibe a decision's coming down the pike anytime soon. I do get why they kind of want him. They have nobody in their quarterback room. But if you're running the Steelers, do you move on?
I'm curious. First, let me ask you a question. If you're the Steelers and Mike Tomlin is your head coach, because Patrick and I disagree on this, do you believe that Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers can coexist the way Aaron Rodgers currently acts? Like that to me is the kicker. Like that's the key here. I know that for the most part, players who have become disgruntled later in their career, they've been great playing with the Steelers under Tomlin, but not necessarily, right first, right? It's more they start fine with Pittsburgh, they go somewhere else, they become disgruntled. Right. We've now seen Aaron Rodgers be a toxic personality. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube here. He is who he is, and he's kind of gone off the rails. If I'm Pittsburgh, as much as I think you want to milk whatever talent's left in Aaron Rodgers' arm, maybe you trade for Kirk Cousins instead. Maybe that makes more sense at this point.
Cousins was awful last year. I didn't think Atlanta did him any favors, though. I'd probably prefer that if I were a Steelers backer or for some reason had a Steelers ticket. Let me give you, I'll be nice, plus $1.70 for the Steelers to make the playoffs next year. You probably have heard Mike Tomlin has never been under 500. Would you take plus $1.70 right now?
I can't, because Mason Rudolph's the quarterback. And if it's not Aaron Rodgers and it's not Kirk Cousins, who's the answer? Because you look around the league, Tom, Daniel Jones signed with Indy. Sam Darnold signed with Seattle. Flacco went to Cleveland. Pickett traded to Cleveland. Geno Smith to the Raiders. Russell Wilson and Winston to the Giants. Who are you playing at quarterback? Because look, I'm not even high on Cam Ward, but I'm willing to admit the gap between Cam Ward and everyone else at the quarterback position in this draft is such a massive drop-off. I'm not sure anyone, and you're going to think I'm nuts, outside of Jalen Milroe is worth a first-round draft pick, and Jalen Milroe's not ready to play next year. So if I'm Pittsburgh, I don't know how you make the playoffs next year because I don't know who's playing quarterback. There's no one even available via trade at this point.
I don't hate the Milroe suggested. I really don't. There are guys sometimes that are athletic freaks and, they can throw the ball 70 yards on their knees and people fall in love with them. I don't know that Jalen Milroe, though, is just that. He's a guy who also had success on the football field. Right? Unlike Anthony Richardson, who did absolutely nothing at Florida. No surprise he's a bust in the NFL. So I'm with you on Milroe to an extent, but we know there's no Jaden Daniels here.
No.
And so the Steelers aren't going to the playoffs with any rookie quarterback. And they kind of want to win now. Think about some of their big names on the defensive side, man. They got to win now. So that's why this is a tricky spot. And get it back to that number I gave you. You and I, look, we're sick and tired of Aaron Rodgers. If he retired tomorrow, I would love it, frankly. But give me plus $1.70 with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback in Pittsburgh. We're taking it.
Well, the reason why it would make sense for Pittsburgh is if you can somehow capture whatever's left in his talent, and he looked bad last year, but then I see some people say that first year off the Achilles is always the hardest. And maybe, a year later, but the problem is he's a year older. So I don't know what to make of Rodgers as a talent anymore. I don't know what's left in his arm. And I think what happened yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, Tom, I think that reeked of desperation. I think that was a guy who has no other options. There's no other market for him right now. The draft is a week away. And he said, no one's talking about me for the last month. Let me make sure I'm back on everyone's radar. Remember, guys, I'm still out there. Because other than that, Can you tell me the purpose of him doing that interview? Because we gained nothing from it.
No, we didn't. All right, let me get you up to date. Royals, Tigers, 1-1. Tigers, $1.20 favorite on the live number. Phillies have put 6 on the Marlins up. They're at the top of the third, so if you want to lay 7.5 with the Phils, you could do that on the run line. Our game, though, most importantly, Reds, Orioles, still scoreless. The O's, $1.64 favorite on the live number. And then, most especially, we got an elimination game. We're both on Atlanta tonight. I took a +1. I think you laid a point. 26-18. The Hawks have a Kongu going 4 or 5. The rest of the squad is 2 for 15. I don't think that's going to get it done for us. So I'll ask you then, because you heard from Aaron Rodgers yesterday. The whole world did. Pat McAfee, give him credit. We'd all love to get Rodgers on. He tried to convince us all he's not really holding Pittsburgh hostage. You buying it?
In fact, let's hear from Aaron Rodgers, because he discussed, did the Steelers give him a deadline? This is out of the horse's mouth yesterday on the Pat McAfee show.
Listen, this entire time, I haven't felt like I owed anybody some sort of decision at any point. This is my life. Like I said, things are different now. My life is different. My personal life is different. I have stuff in the inner circle that, I'm intimately close to, that it's really important to me. And I've been upfront with him about that and said, listen, if you need to move on, if you need to do something, by all means, like nothing but love and respect, if that's a decision that needs to be made. But there's been no deadline, and yeah, I've talked to Mike T many times.
Okay. He has a personal issue. I hope everything's okay. Genuinely feel that way. But if he really wanted to be a Pittsburgh Steeler and they really wanted him to be the quarterback, this just would have happened by now. It's not like, you're trying to go back in the dating pool, Tom, and it's got to be the right time and the right person at the right time. There is no right time, and there's no other right person. There's only one team that's in the market for a quarterback that has playoff aspirations, and there's only one quarterback out there that's a free agent that still potentially could do that. That's Aaron Rodgers. The only thing stopping Aaron Rodgers from signing with the Steelers is either the Steelers don't want him or there's something else going on here with Rodgers not wanting to be there. I also thought it was weird, Tom. He said he'd be willing to pay for $10 million. Why would the Pittsburgh Steelers pay him $10 million? Who are they bidding against for his services next season?
Yeah, that's fair. They're not bidding against anybody. But at the same time, Rodgers for 10 in today's NFL actually isn't all that wild.
Sure.
So, I don't know if that's news breaking. No, he acted like he was Mother Teresa because he wasn't going to ask for 40 to 50 million. I mean, come on, Aaron. We know you don't have that sort of leverage. So, of course, he's holding them hostage. The draft is 6 days away. It's a bunch of nonsense. Atlanta, 4 straight points here to give us a little hope. 28-22. Miami. All right, 888-623-3646. I tell you what, Dusty, let's get to the phones here. David in Maryland's been waiting longest. His turn. VSiN Live. Hello, David.
I'm coming,
Dave,
Tom. I'm coming.
There you are.
I'm here.
Okay.
Byrne and Swedelson. I like it. I think it works.
So do we. So we appreciate you chiming in. Come on, what's on your mind?
And you're right. There is no Jaden Daniels out there because I got him, and I'm not letting him go anywhere.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about tonight's play-in game and then round 1. I hope Dallas beats the living daylights out of Memphis. I hope John Morant's out of the playoffs. I really wish he was out of the league. And then I'm betting on Dallas to upset Oklahoma.
Oh, you're nuts. With no Kyrie, David, I think a great call, my friend, as always. You're right about Jaden Daniels. You have him. Nobody else does. You wouldn't trade him for anybody. I get all that. But I thought you're a little rough on Ja. I mean, he's not done anything criminal. You can't kick him out of the league. But if you want to root against him, hey, listen, that's your prerogative. People are going to be down on Ja, Dusty, especially when he doesn't seem to have gotten it. Come on, man. We talked about it already. I had some fun with what the number is as far as the weapon celebration. But in all seriousness, you can't be doing that nonsense. And that's a distraction for the team, by the way. If I'm the coach, I'm kind of annoyed.
Yeah, no, there was a lot going on, and it goes back a few years. You had the kid at the park where he pulls the gun, and then he's in the club with the gun, and then we got the celebration. Look, other players. Here's what he doesn't understand: other players in the NBA could have gotten away with some sort of celebration, maybe similar to that. Probably anti-gun for the most part, but probably wouldn't have come down as hard on them. He's like the one guy that can't get away with that right now. He has too many other issues that have been related to that same topic. The question I have about John Morant is 25 years old. And I'm not saying he's identical to Russell Westbrook, but he's not really a three-point shooter, right? He's more of an athletic guy. He likes to get to the rack. He's a pretty good assist guy, but he's really a score-first point guard. How do we envision his career as he gets older and some of that athleticism diminishes? If I'm Memphis, I have to start thinking about not just because the off-the-court stuff, but the play also. He's a very good player, but I wonder how his game ages with him as some of that starts to go away. And I know he's 25 years old, but the problem is that creeps up on you, and you want to sell before that hits you too hard. I have a lot of questions about John Morant in the future, and if I'm Memphis, I would think about moving on because of that, on top of the off-the-court stuff.
Yeah, it reminds me of growing up in the Philadelphia area, having Allen Iverson. It was so fun to watch. Now, it was always going to be tough to win with somebody like Allen Iverson, who only really impacts the game when he has the ball in his hands, and he has the ball in his hands the entire game. Yeah. But, man, once he lost that quick first step, 6 foot, $165 soaking wet, you knew he'd be done. And he was. He ends up in Memphis. He ends up in Detroit. John Morant could very well go that way. That was my point about not loving my ticket tonight, laying the 6 before I knew if John Morant needed the injections, because tonight, if he loses even a little bit of that athleticism, I'm in some trouble with the way Dallas defends. But he's nuts. I mean, listen, we love David of Maryland, but there's zero chance that if Dallas were to win tonight that they're beating Oklahoma City. Zero.
No, but it would. Look, we would all be eating crow, right? Like Nico Harrison would be able to go on the greatest tour of all time of I Told You So. If somehow the Dallas Mavericks pull off an upset over the Thunder.
Well, they'd have to win again, though. They can't just win one round, in fairness.
Yes. But. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Also want to point out, I am sweating a bet right now. Cole Reagan's over 7.5 strikeouts at even money against the Tigers. We're at 5 through 3 innings. And that pick, all of our picks, Tom's picks, available, VSiN.com/picks. You become a pro right now. There's an exclusive offer for SiriusXM listeners. You become a VSiN Pro through August 1st for just $19. Just go use the promo code Sirius. You won't just get picks. You'll get betting splits. You'll get picks from all the other shows on VSiN. Plus, Kentucky Derby betting guide coming out, the NFL betting guide in the summer. All of that, VSiN.com/subscribe, promo code Sirius.
Beautiful. Make sure you guys sign up. I've long had access, even before I started doing this, I've long had access because I had a video guest login. I don't even know if your bosses know, but I've been getting in for about the last 3 years. I think it was JVT, damn it. I'll throw names out there. He gave me the hookup, so I've been on the site forever. I'm telling you, it's worth it. All right, we got the Byrne versus Swede MLB 7:05 Eastern Time start. And Baltimore is on the board first. Now I'm laying $1.50 the first 5 and $1.55. You got the plus money.
Hey.
But it's 1-0 Orioles here.
Cedric Mullins solo homer. And here's what I would say. Cedric Mullins has gotten off to a really good start this year. He's a guy a few years ago popped for the Orioles, Tom. I like to see Brandon Hyde going against the numbers, letting the lefty Mullins hit against the lefty Abbott. Stop being such a prisoner of the splits at times and just play guys who are good hitters. Give him a chance to hit against the lefty, and he does right by you, and you're up 1-0 now.
Good point. All right, let's get to Artie's in Los Angeles. Dusty's on VSiN Live. Welcome, Art.
Oh, man, this is a dream team if I've ever heard one. This is one of my most favorite days, driving home listening to you guys. This is great.
Beautiful, Art. Hope everything's well, man. We love Patty. He'll be back soon enough, but in the meantime, Dusty and I will hold it down for you. What's on your mind?
Well, Tom, you guys are going way in too deep on this Aaron Rodgers thing. Look, the bottom line is this. He said that he was very clear with all the clubs that were pursuing him, Pittsburgh in particular, and said, look, football is not my priority right now, so if you need to pivot, go pivot. I don't understand why there's this breakdown and like this detailed discussion about Aaron Rodgers Let it go. If the Steelers want to move on, they'll move on. They're a big boy organization. They'll find a hole. The problem is they've got nobody, so they're waiting on with bated breath. And Steelers fans and everybody that keeps talking about him just keeps perpetuating this tired argument that he's holding everybody hostage. My God, let's move on.
Well, what do you want? What do you want Pittsburgh to do here when they've had their eye on Aaron Rodgers? They're 6 days away from a draft that has a bunch of young arms. We might not love the arms, but don't you believe that they need a little clarity?
They were given the clarity, Tom. They need to make a decision. They either need to wait and hope, or they need to make a decision. They got to go out and get someone else. There's plenty of quarterbacks out there that could fill their quarterback room and move on. And if Aaron Rodgers comes back and says, you know what, I want to play now, then they can assess if they want to bring him, if they can bring him, or they just say no. We've already made up our mind. Thank you, but no thank you. And this whole thing with Aaron Glenn being praised like, hey, man, it's a new day. He put his foot down and he's telling Aaron Rodgers, the guy that ran the organization for the last 2 years, that they're going in a different direction. Man, this all could have been handled with a phone call, Tom. We all know that. Hey, Aaron, I really appreciate it, man, but we're going to go in a different direction. No need to fly out here. We're just going to find the new quarterback, but thank you for everything. Instead, they brought the guy all the way over there to do it in person. What does this tell you? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like, why would they do that? Why would they big dog him like that? It was pointless. It was meaningless. And I didn't see anything to it. And now all these dork Jet fans are, like, rejoicing in this. Forget about
Art,
that.
I mean, listen, that's the argument, I suppose, on the Rodgers side. I got to admit, I wasn't expecting that out of you. Are you taking Rodgers so easily off the hook?
Yeah, I don't understand. Look, Aaron Rodgers went and did that interview as if to give us an update, like something was going to happen. There was a plan. There was a move about to occur. We have to talk about it if he's going to speak. The unfortunate part is he added nothing to this issue, right? We don't know where anything stands. We have not developed at all. We haven't pushed the story along. So I ask, what was the purpose of that interview? I think more is going on behind the scenes. I think he is trying to position himself to make something happen. I don't believe anything Aaron Rodgers says, because Aaron Rodgers speaks in a way where he wants people to perceive him how he wants to be perceived. Everything is tactical. Everything is a plan with Aaron Rodgers. He wants to control his own narrative. That's why he spoke, and that's why we have to speak about it. That's the only reason we're talking about it, because Aaron Rodgers texted Pat McAfee and said, let's do an interview. I have something to say. And then he actually had nothing to add to what's going on with his situation.
Pirates 2, Guardians 2 now. So the Guardians $1.50 favorite on the live number. Bottom third, though, Pirates do have a couple on. There's your third out, so forget it. I was going to say they have a shot here. There's your third out. 40-28. Miami leading Atlanta, not making us too happy. They're a 5-1 favorite of the live number and a 9.5-point favorite against the spread.
Yeah, every time I look
these
up,
playing games have been brutal.
Look, the play-in as a whole has not really been a success since it started. I understand the thought process, but we actually don't need more NBA teams in the playoffs, Tom, because most of the NBA teams are not good. So why are we putting more into the postseason? You're just extending this playoffs, which goes on forever. We're doing this till the summer.
Lucky. Dustin, they got lucky. They've gotten Steph Curry multiple times in the play-in. Yep. They've gotten LeBron in the play-in. Typically, that's not going to be the case. It's going to be more like this, Miami and Atlanta, where nobody really cares. But the reason they did that is because they were trying to incentivize teams to play hard and play their guys down the stretch, because it's a league that for way too long has incentivized tanking. But teams should still tank. Look at Chicago. Every year they get in the play-in. They'd be better tanking. I mean, it's an absolute disgrace. And the other thing that the league does, which drives you nuts, Philly this year loses Embiid. Say what you want about Embiid, but when he doesn't play, Philly loses. When he plays, they're amongst the favorites. He doesn't play all year. They decide, you know what, we got to keep this pick from Oklahoma City, because if we have one of the 6 worst records, we get a chance to keep our pick. It's protected. If not, we lose it. They tanked. So those sort of protections lead to even more tanking. And this was one of the ways they thought they could curb the tanking a little bit. I don't hate it. I understand why people don't get too juiced up about it at the same time because they're not going to get Steph Curry. They're not going to get Kevin Durant. They're not going to get LeBron James consistently in these playing tournaments.
I'm going to ask you a question that I think you would have answered very differently like 5-6 years ago, maybe even 2 or 3 years ago. I need you to power rank the 3 big commissioners in sports, Goodell, Manfred, and Silver, because I think right now, Adam Silver is actually at the bottom of that list for me.
Yeah, he might be. No, seriously, he gets walked all over by the players. The All-Star game didn't work. I don't know that the NBA Cup is working. He has done nothing to curb load management. A couple years ago at the All-Star festivities, remember he tried to convince us that load management wasn't really a thing? And then he comes back 6 months later and he's telling us, well, it's one of the biggest problems we have, actually. Well, wait a minute. No damn kidding.
Yeah.
We've been telling you that forever. I don't want to say Goodell.
He's
because
number
I
one.
think you and I could be the commissioner. He makes every wrong decision, and it always works out for him. But I can't go Silver. I know. You're right.
You've got
strange.
Manfred, who does anything the owners wants and actually hates the players. And
I love the pitch clock, though.
No,
I love the pitch
that's
clock.
the thing is he's made a couple of advancements.
Yep.
I don't hate the extra innings. I know everyone hates it, but you know what?
I don't hate it.
You don't kill bullpens for an entire week where guys are getting sent up and down to deal with these crazy games. Look, is it not the baseball we grew up on? Totally. But does it move the game along? And the biggest issue for the game has been the fact that the games just go on. There's no clock and they never end. And people have short attention spans now and a million other things to watch. You have to give Manfred credit. Adam Silver has lost control of his league. Adam Silver does everything the players want. You have kids. If your kids say, hey, Dad, 76ers are hosting the Lakers. Luka and LeBron are in town. I want to get tickets. You can't buy tickets till the day of because there's a chance if you buy tickets way in advance and they're a lot of money, one or both of those guys could sit out, and then you're going to a game to watch Dorian Finney-Smith play 30 minutes.
Let's be honest, paid about 3 times more because you thought they were. I was a season ticket holder until up to this recent year, and believe me, I know how that works. It's an absolute disgrace. The problem with Manfred is he's got 2 teams playing in the AAA ballpark. One of them is under the Yankee facade, and they're in theory supposed to be a rival. Think about that. I mean, that is so friggin' bad. And I know everybody loved the Sacramento building because everybody was taking the overs for the first couple of weeks. Ball was flying out. But come on, man. You can't have Major League ball players playing in front of 14,000 people.
No, remember
now they get less than that in Pittsburgh and Miami, in the big ballparks. But you get the idea.
And then 2020, remember the Blue Jays had to do it, and the ball was flying out. The gaps just aren't the same. Also, the amenities are horrible. Can you imagine being an athletics player and you had to deal with what you had to deal with at the Oakland Coliseum, and now you're going to go to Sacramento where everything's worse than that? How is that even possible? That is a big issue. But I still say Adam Silver's lack of control. The NBA season goes on too long. The regular season doesn't matter. It is a complete joke at this point. And at some point, he or someone else has to take control back from the players and tell them what they're going to do if the league's going to be a success. I know they make money worldwide. That's part of the problem. The checks are clearing. But there is an illness that is going on throughout the NBA that they need something to fix this problem.
100% with you. AAA Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. We could be in trouble. Double-digit lead here. It's a break in the second quarter for Miami. All right, when we come back, is it an end of an era in Milwaukee? Why the Bucks have a lot to play for in their first-round series versus Indiana. He's Dustin Swedelson. I'm Tom Byrne. It's VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Tom Byrne and Dustin Swedelson.
Patrick Meagher has the night off. Good to have you aboard. I will not be in for Mad Dog Sports Radio tonight. You don't want 6 straight hours of me. So you'll get Amy Lawrence. She'll sit in and do a hell of a job, I'm sure, coming up at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on Mad Dog Sports Radio tonight. I will be back tomorrow, though, to break down day one, NBA and NHL playoffs as well. That'll be 10 to 1 Eastern time, 7 to 10 Pacific. One interesting note about this Milwaukee Pacers series that I don't think, surprisingly, has been talked about enough. I think that Milwaukee is playing for a lot more than just a chance to compete in the second round. I think they're hoping to keep Giannis there long term, obviously. Well, if they're going to do that, they got to win this series, Dustin. And I don't think without Dame Lillard, who knows? That blood clot serious stuff, who knows if he plays? I don't think they're a slam dunk. Now, I'm looking 5.5 is the number in game one. I don't have a play on that. When I broke down the series prices, they could have changed. The best I saw was you could lay $1.90 with the Pacers, get a plus 180 in the comeback for the Bucks. I would definitely lean Milwaukee. I would definitely take plus 180 before I laid $1.90. But I think you're going to see the future of Milwaukee played out here potentially in this first round.
Yeah, I like your angle here because, remember when the Luka trade went down? What was Giannis's reaction? Giannis came out and he wanted to see all the big Euro players in major cities. He said Luka's in LA. He'd love to see, Jokic go somewhere. Well, let's remember Giannis is included in that. And he won his title in Milwaukee, so they can't really complain about him. And everything they've kind of tried to do around him since then just hasn't worked. I mean, the Budenholzer firing, you replace him with a guy like Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers and his track record was going to fix this mess. You know that all too well in Philly. And then on top of it, Damian Lillard. And I know he's injured now, and it looks like he's going to come back. He's not going to play game one. I don't know where he's going to be conditioning-wise for potentially game 2 or game 3. But that experiment hasn't worked. They don't play well together. It doesn't result in winning basketball. Because of that, you're right. Giannis's future in Milwaukee could be on the line because a team like Brooklyn that has a ton of assets, it's a major market, right, in New York. There are other organizations that will sell the farm to get a Giannis in their prime that will catapult them to one of the top seeds in either conference day one of the trade. So, yeah, Milwaukee's got to show something here. The problem is I don't know what to make of this series, Tom. I don't know what to make of the Bucks because I think you can make a strong case if the Milwaukee Bucks could put it all together and play to their potential, they can push a team like Cleveland. They could push a team like Boston. I don't know if they can beat them, but they can push them in a series. And on the other side for Indiana, that is a team we all never pay attention to, but the reality is down the stretch, Tyrese Halliburton over the final 20 games of the regular season averaged 21 points and 11 assists per game, 53% shooting from the floor and 44% from three. That is a guy that when he's hot, we've seen him carry the Pacers to dubs. You don't know what version you're going to get from Halliburton, but I like the Pacers roster construction. It's just not sexy. I do not know what to do with this series.
Yeah, listen, with Dame out, I'd make maybe the Pacers a point better. If Dame plays, Milwaukee's the better team. I also think this version of Dame is not the Portland Dame. So I think there are a lot of people out there, they see the name, oh, Dame Lillard's out. You got to adjust this line, 4 point. No, he's not worth that at this stage. But their ceiling is considerably lower, quite obviously, if he doesn't play. All right, we need the alert sounder. You're in good shape. Come on, A's later. I'm losing hope in my Baltimore play. You just got 3. Reds on the board, 3-1 against the Orioles.
Okay, we're up 3-1. Ellie De La Cruz with a home run, 2 on, 2 out against Povich. Oh, you were almost out of it.
That hurts.
Look,
almost out of it.
Hey, I could win my first 5 plus 143 on the Reds. For those that don't know, a $100 bet on the Reds gets you back plus $143. And you could still split your Orioles' first 5 in the game. Don't know about that Cincy bullpen. Obviously, Baltimore's got a great bullpen. And if Cade Povich is starting, they know they got to get ready early. So you got a chance to split here and walk away okay. I'm happy if my Reds can cash, though, because I love that plus price.
Yeah, and you got the plus price, exactly. Remember now, I can't come up even because I laid $1.50, $1.55 respectively, first 5 full game. I do have the A's later. No runs in the first inning plays. I don't know about you. That's one of my favorite bets. I never take the no. I always take the yes. It's funny how Joe Public works, isn't it? The public loves to hammer overs, except when it comes to this nerfies, as they're oftentimes
Yeah.
called. They love to do the no to the runs first inning. So naturally, the value is always on the yes. But I don't have any play tonight. I didn't want to force it.
I don't mess with those Yerfies Nerfies. It feels like a coin flip to me. I cannot touch them, mainly because every time I've ever tried, Tom, I'm always on the wrong side. If I bet yes, no happens. If I bet no, yes happens. So I can't play that game. It's just too volatile.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, AAA Mad Dog 6 gets you guys in. Let's go to Bill at Chevy Chase, Maryland. If you could punch him up, Adam, I'd appreciate it on VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Hey, Bill, how are you?
All right, guys. Thank you. I just got some miscellaneous things. Let me start running through them. Cooper Flagg is still not declared for the NBA draft. Do you think he's seriously considering going back to Duke? And can you get odds on this?
I don't know if you could get odds on that. Dustin might have a better feel for that. Maybe some offshore spot. I wouldn't think so. And if they would take a bet, it'd be pennies. He's going to come back, right? He didn't reclassify Bill to stay an extra year at Duke. I think his heart is at Duke. I think he wants to be at Duke. But eventually, I think somebody's going to get in his ear, hey, listen, we know you love Duke. You'll still be part of the Brotherhood forever. Let's start getting you on your NBA clock. I'd be shocked if he ends up back at Duke.
Yeah, and somebody wrote an analysis in ESPN a couple of weeks ago saying that putting off that year of getting on that NBA clock by the time he hits the end of his career could cost him like $60 million. So
Sure.
there's a real price tag to being part of the Brotherhood. On Giannis, I will say this about him, just a point. This is the point Mad Dog would make in response to the idea of going to the Nets. And I grew up on Long Island in New York, and Mad Dog is absolutely right about this. If he wants to spend the rest of his career in obscurity, that is the Knicks' town. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
It does not matter what the Nets do. So anybody would say, well, but he could make them this or that. No, he can't. He'd be crazy to go to the Nets, just like Durant was. So that's number two.
Yeah, you're 100% right about that. I was in the Philadelphia area, but 15 minutes from Trenton. It's the Clippers and the Lakers. The Nets could win 2 championships in a row.
Yep.
They'd still have one fan for every 10 the Knicks have. It's just the way it's going to be. All right, next.
Yep. So, we talked, I thought after we talked about Zach Edey the other day, I have a theory. Sorry, Dustin, this is just something Tom and I talked about, that the reason he's not going to get any votes for Rookie of the Year, even though he probably deserves the award, is from the outset, the sports media never liked him as a pro prospect. They didn't like his game. I think they don't like him. He's too, and I don't mean like personality-wise. He's almost like George Mikan or somebody to them. He's not cool. He doesn't shoot the three. And so this will become like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And he will be ignored because these people don't want to admit, in effect, that they were wrong.
Well, I hope that's not the case, but I do understand where you're coming from, Bill. I mean, listen, you know how I felt. I liked Edey. I thought it was ridiculous that he wouldn't be a lottery pick. Bottom line is I don't think Memphis regrets at all how that draft went for them. All right, I don't love this Miami-Atlanta game. Heat up 13 when we come back. All things sports betting with the great Wes Reynolds. He's Dustin Swedelson. I'm Tom Byrne. It's VSiN Live.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Live betting reaction to all the night's action. You're tuned in to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Tom Byrne and Dustin Swedelson.
We're going to welcome in Wes Reynolds, VSiN expert. Boy, is he good at golf and a lot of sports. If you ever check out the betting pick section at VSiN.com, he has like 50 picks a day, too. I don't know where the man gets all the time. I don't know where he gets the time. Now, I got 4 kids, so, it's a little different for me, Dust. But, man, he always has plenty of plays.
Look, there's a few things you got to know about Wes Reynolds. One, he's a machine with the betting. No one sharper on the planet, especially with golf, college basketball, college football, all of it. Everything across the board. But more importantly, no one knows more historically about sports. And then finally, no one knows more about music than Wes Reynolds. Those are the 3 things that I would say make up the brain of Wes Reynolds, and that's why we love talking to him. Let's see if his mic is working here, if we can get him on here. If not, we'll switch to the phone. Wes, you got us here?
Oh, his mic sounds as good as our bet on Atlanta +1. That's the problem. It's 59-47, $1.45. We'll figure it out with Wes. We'll just get him on the phone. It might be easier. Tyler missed it. All right, that's good for us.
Hey.
If we could get this to single digits by the half at this point, I think we got to take it.
Well, how about this? You could be so right. When you start betting on sports, you can realize you could be so right and so wrong at the same time. Wrong about the Hawks +2, but Khalil Ware, we went over 17.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
That's a winner.
He's at 16 before the half. So it's like, all right, you got one thing right. You got one thing completely wrong. That's just the nature of betting. And I think Wes is good to go now to join us here on the phone.
All right, Wes Reynolds, he, of course, VSiN.com. Wes, welcome. Hopefully you can hear us. Let's start with the team you know well, the Indiana Pacers and the Milwaukee Bucks. Dustin and I don't have a bet on Game 1 or the series. I do think an interesting angle is the idea that maybe the future of Giannis could be decided in this series. Do you have a play?
I do, and I did play the Pacers on the dip today for the series price, which now at Circa Sports right here in Las Vegas, you can get as low as -145 because we know Dame, even though he's not going to play in Game 1, is going to be back for the series and is cleared to go. And I think it's just a lot of people taking what they perceive as the hot team. This was a Milwaukee team that they're 8-0 in April, right? But if you look at who they've beaten, they beat Philadelphia. They beat the Pelicans twice. They beat a Phoenix team that was on fumes. They did beat Miami, who is the 10 seed in the East and may be advancing to the main draw based on the score now. And the one good win I felt that they really had was the Minnesota game where they were 25 down. But I don't get this move at all, really, on the Bucks. The fact that they're now as low as +125 at a couple books on the series price, I don't think so. I think people are ignoring the Pacers. This team, by the way, even though some people on some other platforms admitted that they didn't watch the Pacers much this year, well, if they hadn't watched them since January 1st, they haven't seen the 4th best team in the league, at least record-wise. So, yeah, I don't agree with this move at all. I think people are just backing the superstar and the hot team, but I think the Pacers are the better and deeper team this year.
Yeah, they're kind of sneaky, Wes. Halliburton obviously is the engine that makes it go, and he's been really good of late, and that's why they've been better. Obviously, Siakam is a mismatch and just a tough guy to deal with on both ends. And I think they're a pretty deep team. So I think Indiana is a team that a lot of people don't pay attention to, but they're a good basketball team. I want to ask you about a baseball game real quick because it's about to start. So Tom and I laid a price with the Dodgers today, and then that number moved. We got bad numbers. It shortened up because the sharp side looks like it's the Texas Rangers. DeGrom versus Yamamoto, you had the bet up at VSiN.com/picks. You took +127 with Texas. Tell us why.
Yeah, and got a little fortunate here because Ohtani's on the paternity list, so that's the reason why you had the move here. But DeGrom, look, he's been okay since he's come back. Hadn't gotten a decision in either of his 3 starts. Meanwhile, Yamamoto is getting about 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. But a little bit of regression, I think, is due for this team. Texas, I think, is starting to figure it out a little bit, and they're starting to hit. They had such a down year last year. I thought that they were a good buy low team, at least for the season wins, and so far so good. So I've got the best of the number, but sometimes you win with the worst of it and lose with the best of it. So hopefully that's not the latter for me tonight.
Looking at some of these series prices, Wes, I was really surprised with the Denver opener. I couldn't believe they were 2-1. I have the Clippers there. That's one. I want to go there first. Do you agree with that, or are you just looking at this saying, hey, listen, it's Nikola Jokic, maybe playoff Murray shows up, and maybe it is actually Denver after all in the 4-5 in the West?
No, Tom, I'm with the herd. I'm on the Clippers here, and the Clippers have now become favorite in the series. I just think that you're getting the team with the best defensive rating in the league, and I think that you're getting a team that can at least somewhat keep Jokic under control. Now, he's always going to get his. He's the best player in the universe, but the Clippers can play him a variety of different ways. They're one of the few teams that I think actually have somebody that can kind of play him at least for some part of the game straight up with Zubac, and also that's going to make Jokic play defense on Zubac because you can't necessarily ignore him. They'll trap the ball screens. They'll double down on the wings, but I just think this Clippers team's a better defensive team. I think the Nuggets have regressed. I don't think the supporting cast for Jokic has really improved. I think they've actually regressed this year with MPJ and with Jamal Murray, and there's a reason why they were having to rely on these guys like Brown and Peyton Watson because they got to cover for some of these starters that haven't been pulling their weight. So I like the Clippers in the series. I don't know how far they go in the Western Conference. I know they're kind of like the sneaky team where it's like, okay, bet this team on futures to win the West. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I think they got enough to get through the second round.
All right, Wes, obviously, no one anticipates the Orlando Magic upsetting the Boston Celtics. However, that doesn't mean there aren't bets to be placed. When you look at the series where Boston is a minus 5,000 favorite, 16-1 the other way on Orlando, how can we possibly place a bet on Orlando in this that you think might be profitable in this series?
Yeah, probably the best way if you want to play Orlando. I had to lay a price here, and some books don't have it at 3.5. They only go up to 2.5, but I found a 3.5 minus $1.40. That's basically saying Orlando is going to get swept. That's basically essentially what you're betting here. And, you know, with Orlando, they're a team that you look and they can't score. They're 28th, I believe, in offensive rating and 28th in scoring. But one thing they do is slow down the tempo, and they're pretty good defensively at taking away the three. Now, you can only take away so much against Boston, who's going to shoot 45 threes pretty much almost every single night. But Orlando actually allowed the fewest three-point field goal attempts of any team in the league, where the Celtics are shooting 54% of their attempts from the three. So I think Orlando's got enough, and maybe you just get that game, and we've seen this in years past, where Boston one night is just not interested, and they just don't have it, and they know that they've got enough to win this series pretty comfortably. But I think Orlando is going to at least get a game from these guys. If you want to get a plus price, you can maybe go over 5.5 games. I think I saw that at like close to plus $3. I don't think that's the worst bet in the world. They're going to give the Celtics kind of a sneaky, decent series, but at the end of the day, they just don't have the firepower to last for 7 games.
Speaking with Wes Reynolds, VSiN betting analyst, Dustin Swedelson, Tom Byrne with you on this edition of VSiN Live. Tommy Edman just went, that's a home run, just went deep. So 1-0, DeGrom off to a shaky start. Dodgers up early. You mentioned it, Wes. No Shohei Ohtani's on the paternity list, much to the chagrin of Dusty and I. All right, here's another play I like as far as the NBA series are concerned. And people can't wrap their head around this idea to explain this to my audience on Mad Dog Sports Radio tonight. I like the Warriors at $1.20, $1.25 to win that series. But when I saw that I could get the Rockets plus $1.65, I played it. I think that's a pretty good price. You play that in the long term, you're going to end up winning money. I think they're gritty. They're not going to be punked by this Golden State team. Again, I do think the Warriors win. But I don't think it's a major upset if the Rockets win this series. So I took the $1.65 with Houston. Am I in decent position in your estimation?
No, I think you're right, Tom, and I think the market agrees with you because it's down about 20 cents from that. And look, what I do sometimes with these NBA series as well is it's all about timing, too. Sometimes you're going to have both sides. You're going to have both teams in the series at a plus price. And, you know, if you want to, trade a little bit and lock in some profit, like we go back to the Bucks-Pacers, I was unsure why so many people are betting the Bucks because Dame's going to miss game 1. It's like, why not wait? And they're down 1-0, and then you're getting them at a better price. So that's what I think the trick is here. I think that you have to be willing to trade out a little bit, especially these series that you think are going to go the distance or that you think are at least going to go 6 games. So I'm with you on Houston. I think that that's a tough team. I think Udoka has done a really good job with these guys. And if they win game one, you're in great position. Then you can come back on the Warriors at plus.
Wes Reynolds is with us. Look, nobody's sharper than him. VSiN.com/picks. All of his picks are up there. You can become a pro right now. Use the code SIRIUS, SIRIUS. You get access to his picks for just $19. I mean, for that alone, it's worth the price of admission. And we're just picking his brain here when it comes to the series in the NBA postseason. And Wes, I know you don't have an official play, but I'm curious your thoughts on Lakers and the Timberwolves, because I love everything about the Lakers post-Luka. Right? I love the addition. I love the way it stretches things out late in games. Reeves has taken another step offensively. I like LeBron playing in the 4 role more than the 3. I think he's better off at this point in his career banging down low. But Minnesota's been awesome for the last couple of months, and they're plus 160, whereas the Lakers are minus 195. Would you think about doing anything in this series?
I would lean Team Wolves, Dustin. I think it's probably the right price right now, but look, the Lakers are getting all the love right now, and Rob Pelinka gets the Executive of the Year. And look, they've got a superstar for the next several years now with Luka to take over when LeBron eventually hangs it up. But they're getting a lot of the hype now in the media, and sometimes that worries me a little bit. And keep in mind, this Minnesota team, they went the distance in the West last year. This is a play. They've got one of the biggest dogs in the entire playoffs with Anthony Edwards. I mean, nobody's a few guys are more clutch than that guy. And I think that they've gotten a little bit more depth. They actually can get some scoring off the bench where they can send Ant-Man to the bench like 5 or 6 and don't have to play him the whole game, with DiVincenzo and Alexander Walker's a little bit more confident. Seen it with McDaniels a little more confident shooting the ball. So this Minnesota team, this is not going to be an easy out for the Lakers. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if this goes 7, where maybe you can bet the over in terms of the amount of games in the series. That'd probably be the only way I would attack it, because I think the purple and gold are the justifiable favorite. But this Minnesota team is gritty, and they're not going to give them anything. So it's so tough to bet against the Ant-Man, man. He's one of my favorite players in the league, and he's clutch, and he's not afraid of the big moment, and I love that in a young player.
How do you view Oklahoma City, West, whether you're like me, handicapping with, predictive, estimated, plus, minus, and Darko numbers, trying to project the minutes, or you're just going old school, clean the glass, net rating, maybe you're doing the 4 factors adjusted to today's game. No matter how you slice it, you're going to have Oklahoma City power rated number 1 in the West if you're doing it right. But at the same time, their starting lineup is 1 year older than Auburn's starting lineup was on average. Do you have enough faith in these young guys in Oklahoma City that they're going to be able to, and it's a gauntlet, they're going to be able to navigate their way through the West?
Yeah, look, I think they certainly can. I don't expect it. I think that they get to the finals. I think that maybe they get to the West Finals and get beat there, because this is a team where I think sometimes you get that young team, Tom, where it's like you got to go through a little bit of the pain, right? Sure. You got to kind of get close. You got to get one step closer and one step closer before you finally break through. But this is a team that won 68 games, and it was no fluke. I think the additions of Caruso in the offseason, obviously having Chet healthy, having Hartenstein down low to do the dirty work so that Chet can step outside and really showcase his offensive game, has helped this team a lot. But it seems like, have they been on cruise control, or have they really been grinding? They were trying, as well as they could to get to 70 wins, I think. But this is just a team, when you're so young, maybe it's like you don't know what you don't know. Maybe that's going to apply to this team, and they're not going to be, okay, we're not used to being the hunted necessarily. We're used to being the hunter, and they're not comfortable with that role. So, it's all about the approach. That's the same thing, I think, with the Pistons in the Knicks series, because usually these young teams, they struggle that first time in the spotlight. But Oklahoma City did have a little bit of it last year, so I would expect that they're at least not going to be an early out, that they're going to at least get to the West Finals.
Then the Thunder, they're going to take on winner of Mavericks and the Grizzlies later tonight. Right now, we've got Memphis laying 6. That totals 221.5. Anything jump out to you in that game? Anything you think might be worth playing? I know it's not an official play. Maybe an official lean here, Wes?
Yeah, what I want to do is wait for Ja to officially get cleared and see if that'll drop a little bit on Desmond Bane tonight in terms of his points. I think it's up to 22.5. I'd like to get it to 20.5 or maybe 21.5. Every little bit counts. Desmond Bane, by the way, did go 39 minutes in that 7-8 play-in out in Golden State. That was the second most minutes he had played in any game this season. So even if Ja is in the lineup, you're going to see Bane, I think, get up a lot of shots. Mavericks are pretty thin in the backcourt. Bane had 27 last time he played Dallas about a month ago. So even if Ja is out there, I think you're going to see Bane get his. The guy that's going to have the tough matchup is probably Triple J down low against that Mavericks drop with Lively and with Gafford. So Bane, I think, is going to be the beneficiary if Ja is more the facilitator tonight.
Still some West Coast games to be played here west tonight as far as the baseball is concerned. You got any plays on the diamond for us?
Not as of now. Might look a little bit at Tyler Anderson under strikeouts. The Giants have been the surprise, I think, of the season. I did not expect that they were going to be 13-6. I know we're not even a month into the season, but this was a team I was a little bit down on. They don't really have a lot of superstars or big names in that lineup, but they're like the Giants of several years ago, where they had these guys other than Posey. They were kind of a lot of the no-name lineup, and they've been playing very well. 13-6 to start. Even the Angels have been a little bit better at 500. But I would look maybe Anderson under strikeouts. He's kind of a pitch-to-contact guy, so that'd be my lean in the late game.
Yeah, Wes, real quick, before we let you go here, I'm just curious, because there's a lot of people listening, the Mad Dog Sports Radio audience. Not everyone's a bettor. Maybe they're trying to bet now, or this is their first year ever betting on the NBA. As the sharpest person I know, when it comes to NBA postseason betting, how would you say it differs from betting the regular season? Is there any advice you would give new bettors into dipping their toes into the playoffs?
Yeah, one thing I would say, Dustin, the numbers are a lot tighter. And they get a lot tighter as you go into the season because, look, quite frankly, there's less competition right now in terms of booking this stuff. So you have the bookmakers' full attention. You don't have them deep into football. You don't have them deep into March Madness. They have the NHL and baseball. So they can focus on this a little bit more. And, what I've done in the NBA this year, I've got more players how much you're betting, a little bit harder to get down money, certainly than sides and totals. But I think that that's what you got to concentrate on. And you got to be willing. Player prop market, by the way, is not a lot different than the sides and totals. You got to be willing to sell high on somebody. Some guy goes for 40 on the points and everybody wants to play the over the next time out. Well, that's going to be taxed into the number because these guys are paying more attention behind the counter. So, don't always necessarily go on what you see last. Because that's what I think a lot of new bettors and more novice bettors like to do, and we've all been in that category at one point in our life. So that's what I would look at. Don't look too much at the over adjustments because sometimes these do get over adjusted, especially from a side and total and even a player prop standpoint.
Wes, excellent job per usual. Really appreciate it. We'll be listening and reading VSiN.com. Thank you.
You bet, guys. Thanks for having me.
He's Dustin Swedelson. I'm Tom Byrne. It's VSiN Live on a Friday, April 18th. So it's a 9-point margin here at the half. You're going to win. Well, you already did. I think it's still in the fourth inning. But let's see. 7-1 is now the score. Man, Cincinnati is rolling Baltimore. Forget about tonight's bet. I'm already considering them L's. But you got to be a little concerned if you're an O's backer for the year or just a Baltimore fan. This team is missing something. And the other thing that annoys me about this team, their ownership talked a big game.
Yeah.
They want that franchise. Oh, we're going to spend all this money. You wait and see. I'm still waiting. They haven't spent anything.
Hey, I don't understand what you're doing with all these prospects. You don't have positions for them to play at the big club. There's a team out there in Seattle that has no bats, and they have a ton of arms. Pick up the phone, trade for one of those starters. In fact, you could probably trade for 2 starters right now. I wouldn't be shocked if they could get someone from Seattle and Dylan Cease. You put them in the rotation for Baltimore, they catapult up the standings. This is a situation for me, Tom, when I look at the Orioles, where the hope is the team that we're seeing now is not the team we're going to see at the end of the year. I am considering buying the dip, buying the low point on them because, look, it's a lot of young players that should potentially get better. I think they are still a playoff team. They are still a World Series contender, and it's a long season. I mean, last year there was a lot of opportunities to buy in on a lot of teams. Like 2 years ago, I had 25-1 on the Rangers to win the World Series. They faced the D-backs, who I had 80-1 to win the World Series. It goes up and down. The market is constantly fluctuating. Yeah. little different than the stock market these days. Baseball market actually goes back up at times. So I just think there's an opportunity to buy low on the Orioles. I don't know if it's now, but it's happening soon.
Right now I'm seeing at one particular book plus 950. Shop around, obviously. Hopefully your state has plenty of options for you. You could always go offshore too. If you could get better than 10-1, for them to win the AL, I don't think that's terrible. Let me see what they are in the division. 5-1 in the division. That's not bad. They still have plenty of firepower. Pitching, you're right. I start to worry a little bit about the O's when I think about the pitching. And little margin for error. Same as Atlanta, right? In the NL East, Atlanta's even worse position. They did get Strider back, look pretty crisp. They're going to get Acuna Jr. back. But with the Phillies, and by the way, the Phillies have a decent record. They're not even hitting yet. The Mets have beat up on the Little Sisters of the Poor. Yep. The Braves' margin for error, though, because of this start, pretty slim. Pretty slim.
Yeah, I don't know how they battle out of this hole. However, as a Mets fan, I tell you, I never count the Braves out because they basically 100%. Ruined my childhood in the 90s. I think your Phillies are dangerous. I think the thing about your Phillies that bullpen piece, right, during the season, that's easy. You could trade for bullpen guys. But Jesus Luzardo, the Jesus Luzardo trade, that is the most underrated addition of the entire offseason. That guy has a live arm. He has ace potential. And if they can just make him their number 3 and he can live up to that, that is a scary rotation to throw at teams in the playoffs.
100%, especially with Christopher Sanchez dealing. I was down the ballpark yesterday with the Giants in town. They got it last night to even that series 2-2. Man, he had 12 Ks. This kid is incredible. Now, if he gets that third pitch, he usually throws a sinker, a changeup, or try to mix it a slider. If he masters that third pitch, woo, Christopher Sanchez is going to be nice. Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez, they're going to get Ranger Suarez back before too long. Man, my Phillies got some pitching. You're right about that. And I agree with you on the Braves, though. I joke about this with Rob Brenner, who does my sports bites oftentimes and does MLB Network stuff. The bottom line is, as a Philly or Brave fan, even though both teams are bigger market teams that spend more, you never count out the Braves. They're typically incredibly well run.
No, they always find someone. It's a name you're like, it wasn't even a hype prospect. Like Spencer Schwellenbach is a legit Cy Young candidate. Did not even remember talking about him as a prospect. They will find guys, they will call them up, they will turn them into all-stars. That's what the Atlanta Braves do better than almost any other organization in sports. They just consistently find winning baseball players. But you're also right about my Mets. I love the Mets. I think they made a lot of sneaky moves. It's a very good record against a lot of bad teams. And this is what they benefited from last year on the opposite end. Their schedule was really top-heavy last year, got easy at the end. That's how they were able to get hot and make that playoff push. Let's see if they can be consistent here because I have a lot of questions about their pitching. They have injuries to them, but I also don't trust guys like Frankie Montas when he comes back. Is Sean Manaea the guy that we saw in the postseason or the guy we've known over his career in Major League Baseball? I don't know what the Mets really are. Juan Soto hasn't really started hitting for power yet. There's a lot of questions about the Mets, and if the Phillies play to their potential at plus 120 right now to win that division, they could run away with this thing very early.
Speaking of running away, Miami still up 10, 67-57. They're an 8.5-point favorite. Let's see. DraftKings has it $8.5, $20. The comeback plus $8.5, $10 on Atlanta. Still not loving our play. Alec Burks is hitting threes on us now. You know it's not going to be right if that's the case.
Yeah, look, Miami without Jimmy Butler, they're going to win. They're going to go to the postseason. How weird is that? I mean, how
they'll get whooped though. They'll get whooped against.
Yeah, I know, but it's just weird they have such a random assortment of pieces. Like if it was trick-or-treating on Halloween and you got home and you looked in your bag and it was all the pieces that the Heat have on their roster, you're like, all right, cool. I got a lot of really good, mediocre candy, but I didn't get a Reese's peanut butter cup.
There's the Reese's. 100%. That's my guy. Yes. I got a bunch of Cadbury eggs too, but Reese's 100%.
Yeah, the Heat are essentially a lot of Baby Ruths, a lot of Milky Ways, a lot of those
maybe
thrown in the mix.
Or two, Kit Kat. You don't love it, but you'll take it, I suppose. All right, still 67-57, couple of stops on both sides. But when we come back, NHL series prices at Game 1 lines with Jonathan Davis of SiriusXM NHL Network Radio Plus, a VSiN NHL analyst. He's Dustin Swedelson. I'm Tom Byrne. It's VSiN Live on a Friday, Mad Dog Sports Radio 82.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Welcome back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Tom Byrne and Dustin Swedelson.
All right, always good to have you guys listening. Welcome on in as we talk some Stanley Cup playoff shotgun start tomorrow. We are just hours away, and there are some compelling series. I know we don't have some of the bigger brands and some of the bigger markets, but I love some of these series. How about Team USA versus Canada all over again? Connor Hellebuck versus Jordan Binnington. Am I nuts? Or does Winnipeg have a little value here, Jonathan? You're the expert. You tell me. I played the let's see what I got the price at. That's important here. I played the Jets, even though I hate laying $1.90. I actually thought they'd be well over $2. Right or wrong?
Well, they were over $2 when things opened up. So we're,
Okay, that makes sense.
hit. So, yeah, I mean, you got a better price for sure. Um, yeah, it's kind of shown me. I mean, the Blues, the Jets are that team where,
Yep.
it's shown me. They've had two, you look at the last two playoff years, they win the first game against Vegas, they lose the next four. They win the first game against Colorado, they lose the next four. Yeah, it's been playoff Hellebuck has been disastrous. But look, the Jets are 15-9 against the others, against the 7 teams that are in the playoffs. The other 7 Western teams, they were 3-1 against the Blues. I like this series to go long. I played the series to go. I played both 6 and 7 series prices. So I think we're going to get a long series. I chickened out on picking a winner.
Blues have been hot because they're not that good, JD, but they've been hot. And you know this better than anyone. When it comes to hockey, it comes to Stanley Cup playoffs, if you just hit it at the right time, you could be super dangerous here. And then this next series I want to ask you about, I think we anticipated fireworks, but the reality is I think Dallas is pretty banged up. Stars in the Avalanche, Stars plus 135, super aggressive at the trade deadline this year, taking on a Colorado team with a ton of firepower. What would you do when it comes to the Avs and the Stars?
Well, okay, 3 things that grabbed my attention. One, I would play Colorado to win both in 5 and in 6. I don't think this is going beyond 6, and I just don't have the stones to play a sweep. Mike Palm, I know, played Colorado 13-1 to sweep the series, but I played 5 and 6. I also played Val Nichushkin to score at least 3 goals in the series. That was about minus 110. Nichushkin was the guy that got suspended the last 2 years for failing drug tests. He's had his issues, but he had 9 goals in 8 games last year in the playoffs. He was leading the Avs. He had 21 goals this year in 40 plus games. He was on pace for 40 goals. I love Nichushkin to lead Colorado in scoring. So I'm all over Colorado in this one. The loss of Miro Heiskanen on the back end for Dallas is crippling for them. You can get away with that in the regular season, but when you've got to play a team like Colorado and try to win a best of 7, I don't think it's possible. It's easier for them to survive the loss of Jason Robertson, who got hurt in the final game of the year. They're very deep up front. It's going to be interesting to see Mikko Rantanen face his former team in the first round. Rantanen has been one of the best playoff players. I just think Colorado has too much.
Jonathan Davis, VSiN and SiriusXM NHL radio analyst, our guest. Dustin Swedelson, Tom Byrne with you on a Friday, VSiN Live. All right, Jonathan, I'm fascinated by Toronto and Ottawa. Look, Toronto's a tough team to trust. You talked about Connor Hellebuck. Awful last year against the Lance. Gets outdone by Binnington. I didn't think it was bad in the game, Team USA Canada, but Binnington was better. But Toronto's got that same sort of stink to him, right? Austin Matthews had those 3 beautiful chances in that aforementioned Canada-United States game. Didn't get it done. Forgets that he should be covering Connor McDavid in the slot. So it's hard to trust them. Am I nuts to think that Ottawa is a decent price to knock off Toronto?
No, you're not nuts at all. Again, another one that I played to also go 6 and 7. I mean, look, Ottawa swept Toronto during the regular season. I know, look, playoffs are different, but the playoffs are different, and that doesn't, in many respects, my big knock on the Toronto Maple Leafs is that the two, Austin Matthews, who you mentioned, and Mitch Marner are 2 guys that I've always said love to win, Tom, but they don't hate to lose. And until you hate to lose, you're never going to win when it matters most. And that's my concern with Toronto. So, although in saying that, I do like the price on Toronto to win the Eastern Conference and make it, to the finals. I mean, it's a really good price. So strictly from a value standpoint, if Toronto can get it together, the price right now, I think I got around plus 750, is really good.
Hey, look, I know you guys don't like the tariffs we put on you, but you don't need to win the Stanley Cup. That's America's. That's America's trophy. You guys haven't won in a very long time. Can't be taking it back north of the border.
Dustin, I hate the Leafs. I can't stand them. I was born in Montreal, so that's, for people out in Southern California, that's like, you grew up, you went to UCLA, you hate USC. So I can't stand the Maple Leafs. If they ever win the Stanley Cup again, I mean, Jesus, it is going to be like, we'll never hear the end of it in the hockey world for about 50 years.
All right, well, let's talk about the Canadians then, since you're from Montreal. They're taking on Washington, who's the 1 seed, yet A lot of doubters out there because this is a super surprising season from the Caps. And right now, Washington in the series against the Canadians, minus 320, Canadians plus 250. What is the ceiling for Washington this year? Because the assumption is they get through this series pretty easily.
Well, the odds say they do, but it's interesting because when you look at the futures board, I think they're the seventh or eighth longest or shortest odds, depending on how you want to look at it. They're not believers when it comes to the books. I think they're about 10-1, 11-1 to win the cup. I could only play Montreal at that series price. Look, I think the Canadians have a shot. They've been playing playoff type hockey for 2 months now. There's no question. Well, I would say there's no question. The problem with the Capitals is that they've, at least, for the past 2 months, it's been all about getting Ovechkin the record. There's been very little structure to their game. I think they've given up 3 goals or more in 12 of their last 14 games. It's been tough. So now they've got to flip the switch. I don't trust them. They should win this series, but their goaltending has been suspect at this price. I would only play Montreal. Maybe you could play Montreal pre-flop, and then maybe if the Canadians jump on the series and you can get the Caps at a plus price at some point, then I could see going on Washington, but not having to lay the juice.
That makes a lot of sense. Covering the Stanley Cup playoffs. Always a lot of passion and fun. Jonathan Davis, VSiN and SiriusXM NHL Network Radio Zone. All right. This is the year, Jonathan. This is the year that the LA Kings beat the Edmonton Oilers. Give me the $1.15 on the plus side. What say you?
Yeah, another one that pains me to say yes, play the LA Kings. Another team that I'm not a big fan of the Kings. But this is if they're going to beat Edmonton, this is the time. Their roster is constructed better than ever to beat this Edmonton team. They're stronger down the middle. There's questions about the health with the Oilers. Yes, Connor and Leon will both be back. So you've got the 2 best players in the league, or 2 of the best players in the league, playing for the Edmonton, playing on the Oilers side in this series. But, the loss of Matthias Ekholm on the blue line, I think, is something that's going to be hard to overcome. The Kings have the better goalie. I played LA again to win in 5 and to win in 6. I just thought the value was there. I can't find a reason to bet on Edmonton. So yes, LA is the way to go in this series.
Talk to me about VGK, the Golden Knights minus $2 against the Wild, Minnesota plus 170 all year long. Jonathan, I've been looking at the futures board. I want to have a hockey team to back going into the playoffs. And Vegas was 12-1. They've only moved to 10-1. Do you think VGK is live to go on a run here and get it done? And what do you think about the matchup with the Wild?
100% live to go on a run. Love this team. Deep from top to bottom, playoff tested, won a Stanley Cup. I can't find a hole on this roster. I would take VGK in this series. Minus 1.5 games. I think that that's the way to go. It's not going 7. Minnesota is finally healthy. They were one of the best teams at the beginning of the year when they were healthy. I just think there's too much on this Vegas side. So I would play Vegas at minus 1.5, and I would be tempted. I think the number has dropped dramatically over the last 24 hours, but Pavel Dorofeev, their young superstar goal scorer, I would even sprinkle some money on him right now, a little pizza money on the Conn Smythe Trophy. I love Dorofeev.
All right, we covered pretty much all of them. We haven't gotten into Florida, Tampa much, or the Devils, of course, trying to upset Carolina. Do you have a play in either of those 2 series before we get to some Game 1 lines?
Yeah, well, I would. The Devils and Carolina is one series I don't care about. And I can't trust either team whatsoever. Florida, Tampa, very much looking forward to the Battle of Florida. I like Tampa in this series. Will this be the 6th straight year that either the Lightning or the Panthers make it to the Stanley Cup? But I do like Tampa. Yeah, I think Florida's just too beaten up.
All right, well, how about, I don't remember if you touched on, we first touched on the Blues and Jets. Game 1 is tomorrow, plus 160 on the Blues, minus 192 on the Jets. That total is 5.5. Actually, let's talk totals. in the playoffs, because during the season we see a lot of higher totals. Looking at the board now, mostly 5.5s out there. Are you anticipating some low-scoring games this weekend?
Winnipeg, 3 of the 4 meetings between the Jets and the Blues stayed under the total during the regular season. I would lean under, not interested in playing the under. The way I looked at tomorrow's game between the Blues and the Jets was sprinkled a little bit on the Blues on the money line, because I just think they're going to win a game in this series, and so I think that there's value in playing them on the money line. I like Cole Perfetti of the Winnipeg Jets to record. You can either play him for an assist, over half an assist at about plus 180, or you can go conservative and play him for at least a point at about plus 110. Perfetti had 5 points, all assists versus the Jets in the 4 regular season matchups. He led the team in scoring against St. Louis during the regular season. I like Robert Thomas of the Blues. 25 points in a 12-game point streak to close out the year. He had 7 points against the Jets during the regular season. I like him at over 1.5 assists tomorrow as well. You can get that, I think, at about plus 300 for over 1.5 assists. He had 21 assists in the last 12 games of the year.
All right, Jonathan, how about any other game one line that may have stuck out to you, or even a player prop or something along those lines?
Sure. So let's go to Colorado.
Could have some fun with.
We'll go to Colorado and Dallas tomorrow, the nightcap. Val Nichushkin, who I talked about, I do like Val, and that so I like Val for an anytime goal tomorrow. I think he's about plus 230. I like Nathan McKinnon over 3.5 shots on goal. Got to pay a little bit of juice on that one. So those were 2 props to me that stuck out. I would look at the over in this one here. I just think that the back end of the Dallas Stars is just not in a good spot. These 2 teams tend to play higher scoring games, so I would lean on the over 5.5 Stars and Avs.
Now, this won't be an official play. I'm going to put you on the spot here, JD, but I know you can handle it.
Okay.
Is there a game one dog, a game team on the road that you think is live to shift maybe a series that can go out there and upset the favorite in game one?
Yeah, look, I'm already on St. Louis. I would have no problem betting Ottawa, and I think Montreal can win at least one of the 2 games in Washington. And the other way you could also approach the Canadians, because of that stat I gave you about Washington's propensity to give up at least 3 goals in a game, you're going to get Montreal's team total at over 2.5 tomorrow, or in their game one. I would also look at Montreal's team total over 2.5. So yeah, I have no problem. I would play St. Louis, any one of those dogs, St. Louis, Ottawa, and Montreal, at least to win one of the 2 games on the road.
Jonathan, really appreciate you helping us do that hockey. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Jonathan Davis, VSiN and SiriusXM NHL Network radio expert. All right, good stuff from him. He knows his stuff as far as the hockey's concerned. All right, straight ahead. Shedeur slander? Will the Colorado quarterback slide down the board Thursday? That and more. He's Dustin Swedelson. I'm Tom Byrne. You're on VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82.
Cruise in live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
live betting reaction to all the night's action. You're tuned in to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Tom Byrne and Dustin Swedelson.
Elimination game in the association. Miami's still holding off Atlanta by 9. Couple of backbreaking threes with Kyle Anderson late third quarter. So Miami about 8.5 on a live number, in pretty good shape entering the fourth quarter. We're 6 days away from the NFL draft, and there's been some Shedeur slander to an extent. I still think somebody's going to fall in love with these quarterbacks. They always do. It's the most important position. Do you believe he's going to slide down the board, Dustin? Because that's what we heard for a while, that he was back up the board and now supposedly might slide back down. What should I believe?
I think he's going to go in the back end of the first round. I know we all want to overthink this, and I think we all want to think that he's going to fall into the second. I just think there's too many desperate teams that will say, look, we don't have that high of a grade on Shedeur Sanders, but we do have back end of the first round grade. And if it doesn't cost too much to trade back in, if you don't have to give up the future for the potential quarterback of the future, especially when you think about some teams that maybe already have a starter and he doesn't have to play right away. Because when I look at Shedeur Sanders, certainly it's a flawed prospect, Tom. He's a guy that I think mentally is there as a quarterback in the NFL. I think he understands the game. I think he processes information great. But the issue is the offense that they ran in Colorado. Right, 1 year in the Pac-12 facing Pac-12 defenses, another year in the Big 12, which isn't really the Big 12, and even then, not good defenses also. Majority of his throws on screens and short slants over the middle. Travis Hunter taking short passes a long way. I just don't know what his arm talent is, but I know he knows how to play the position. If you are an evaluator and you think the arm strength is good enough to be a starter, I do think he's worthy of a late first-round pick, but anyone picking before the Steelers, I would be hesitant about taking him as my quarterback and my first pick in the draft.
See, here's where I am. I'm with you. I don't look at him the same way as I did at Caleb Williams, at Jaden Daniels. No. But at the same time, it's Cam Ward and who else, right? It's the most important position. Somebody inevitably is going to say, well, I got to get the quarterback. So I don't even know that I buy that it's going to be back end of the first round. If he ends up still going early in this draft, would I be completely shocked? Would you be completely shocked with the way the Giants have run the organization of late, that the Giants decide, you know what, we're going to go Shedeur Sanders?
I wouldn't be shocked if Shedeur Sanders went number 3 to the Giants or went in the third round to the Saints. He could go anywhere from from number 3 to the third round, and none of it would surprise me at this point. And I don't think the Dion thing is playing a role in this like people think. I think Shedeur's his own person. I think he's a pretty impressive kid. When you talk to him, I actually like the confidence. My actual question is actually the athleticism and arm talent. That's the only thing I don't know. But mental makeup, I think it's all there. There's only, the question is, where is the team that lands on him? Obviously, you mentioned the Giants. That is an option. In the betting market, the New Orleans Saints are the favorite. I think there's a lot of talk about the Steelers and him fitting in there with Pittsburgh because they need a quarterback of the future. Who knows when they'll have an opportunity again? Although with the way things are going, maybe they'll have an opportunity next year with a better draft class of quarterbacks. Those are the 3 teams that jump out. But then the question then, Tom, is, do you like Shedeur Sanders better than Jackson Dart? Do you like Shedeur Sanders better than Jalen Milroe? And then here's a question that I can't believe I have to ask, but the news cycle says I do. Do you like Shedeur Sanders better than Tyler Shuck?
Yeah, the kid from Texas Tech. I do. To answer your question, this kid's going to be dangerous on 3rd and 4th down with his ability to make plays with his legs. And it's not like he's got a bad arm. So, just because I don't power rate him the same way I did at Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams doesn't mean I look at him the same way as I looked at a Drake May last year, a Bo Nix last year, and both of those guys looked pretty good.
Oh, I think he's better than Bo Nix. I think that's a good call by you. I think he will be better than Bo Nix. One, he's younger than Bo Nix. He's almost as experienced as Bo Nix. And I don't think Bo Nix is a very accurate thrower of the football. I think Shedeur is accurate. I just don't know if he can make some of the deep throws that you might have to make. Someone came on here and compared him to Geno Smith. Here's my question. If you were drafting Geno Smith and you knew Shedeur Sanders would be a Geno Smith in the NFL, would you be okay taking him at 3? Would you be okay taking him at 9? Would you be okay taking him at 20? Is that good enough for that?
Yeah, no. No, I don't. I mean, Geno's done a nice job at Seattle, but I see your point. Here's a price at Bookmaker. You want to take a guess what it is to go under 8.5? So in other words, picks 1 through 8?
Oh, it's got to be like 4 to 1.
Not terrible. Plus 339 at Bookmaker. You got to lay 411. Now, I saw it at an exchange just a minute ago for about $1 less, but at Bookmaker to go over 8.5, minus 411. Wow. That tells you a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at a Lamar situation where the value will be too good and teams can't trust that after day one of the draft and these GMs and front offices get a chance to assess where they're at, that you could get Shedeur in the second round because everyone's going to then try and trade up to get a quarterback. It doesn't matter what you think of the quarterback, essentially. If you think the quarterback is worthy of down the road being a starter in the NFL, the likelihood of you wanting to draft them at the back end of the first round, that would tell you that's value. That's all.
Where are you at with Ashton Genty? I wouldn't take him. I got to be honest with you. I wouldn't take him in the first, even top 10 picks, to be fair. I know a lot of people have linked him to the Raiders. I'm seeing over 6.5 plus $1.76. Under 6.5, you have to lay 210.
Yeah, Tom, the running back position, it had a resurgent year last year because of guys like Saquon Barkley. But the reality is, if you're drafting in the top 10, you have too many other needs. If I'm the Raiders, I'm taking a corner. I'm taking an offensive lineman. I'm rebuilding that organization. And I'm on an island with this one. I think Omarion Hampton from North Carolina is better than Ashton Genty, who played in the Mountain West Conference. I know the ACC wasn't amazing this year, but Omarion Hampton is a dual threat. He's an explosive athlete. I think if he's not better, he's at least as good as Genty, and I think projects equally in the NFL.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you think that there are scouting departments in the NFL that agree with you, you should hammer under 19.5. I'm seeing that Bookmaker plus 258. Shop around. You might even be able to get something better than that. That's an interesting take. So much of this is just trying to handicap what these human beings in suits in these organizations are going to do, which makes it tricky to say the least. But there are some interesting props to be played here. Like, for example, Jackson Dart, over $24.5 10, under $24.5 10. He seems like the trendy, and he's a good player, the kid out of Ole Miss. Don't get me wrong. He can make all the throws. He seems to be a trendy guy right now. I would probably take a flyer on Jalen Moroto, to be honest with you. The kid's got a monster arm, better than, I think, Jackson Dart, and he's a much better athlete. Now, he's not as polished. He's not as refined. He dealt with some consistency issues at Bama, but I think I would actually take a flyer on him before I take Jackson Dart.
Well, I like Jalen Milroe better because you would design the offense around him. And look in your backyard in Philly, I think while they're not exactly the same, Milroe's faster than Jalen Hurts in Philly. They're both inaccurate. Jalen Hurts is not an accurate thrower of the football, but he's schemed up to have a good completion percentage. He plays within a system well. His mobility allows them to run that RPO. He's super dangerous in that. And where Hurts is better at taking hits maybe and bouncing off of guys, I think Milroe's a little more explosive. He can run away from guys on the edge. And if you take that plan, you let him sit for a little, you let him get used to the NFL game, maybe you can develop his accuracy a little bit here. But the reality is you scheme him up and you let him go run free in the NFL. And guess what? Linebackers are not going to be able to chase him down from behind. If you scheme him up right, Jalen Milroe could be a stud. If you scheme Jackson Dart up right, I think he could be an okay starter in the NFL. So I'm with you. I would go get Jalen Milroe in the first round.
88-86, here come the Hawks.
Oh, they're toying with
during
us.
A break. Yeah, you said it during the break, I think. They're going to tease us. They're going to come back, get it within a possession, and then you're going to see Miami go on an 8-9-0 run. But right now they're within 2. So if you wanted to play Atlanta right now, you're only getting the 2.5, 105 that, was available as the game started. No, actually, no, what am I saying? It started with them as a slight favorite. I took the +1. Now they're plus 3.5. Maybe Miami's about to score here. Of course, these books are a little ahead of our streams, which is a problem.
Yeah, here's the question, Tom. So where I'm looking at it right now, it's a 2-point game. Would you place the bet again? Because right now
they just tied it. 88-88, sweet. There you go. Maybe they're not just teasing us.
Oh,
so to answer your question, now I'd have to say yes. Would I take my +1, land $1.06 at this point, 88-88? Yes.
Well, 30 seconds ago when I asked the question, my answer was going to be no, but now I've swung the other way. That's what betting will do to you.
And the score changed, in fairness. An NFL Draft with Thor Nystrom, NFL Draft Analyst for MB Fantasy Life, is next. He's Dustin Swedelson. I'm Tom Byrne. Come hang out on a Friday, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio 82.
covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Tom Byrne and Dustin Swedelson.
All right, Dustin and I actually have a little bit of juice now all of a sudden with Atlanta finally decided to show up. They're actually in the lead, 91-90. Atlanta's $1.30 favorite of the live number. We'll keep you up to date on that and all the baseball as well. Dodgers still lead Texas 1-0. That's a good one with Yamamoto and DeGrom on the bump. But we are 6 days away from the NFL draft. Thor Nystrom covers it nicely for MV Fantasy Life. He's an NFL draft analyst, and he's kind enough to give us some time. Thor, good to have you. We've been talking about Shedeur Sanders in particular. Wasn't too long ago he could be the second or the third pick. Now I'm looking at Bookmaker, and he's like 4-1 to go at least ninth or worse. Where are you with Shedeur and where he might go 6 days from now?
That part of it's hard. It's hard to unspool the signal from the noise. You know, the narrative with him, this process has been so bad, right? Like, and I think people lose it to his film against their preconceived notions about him and his father. You know, for me, he is much closer to Cam Ward than is commonly discussed. In fact, I have him above Cam Ward, right next to each other on my big board, but I like Shedeur a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, you know, some of the smoke appears to be going that way, but I'll believe it when I see it. He's a top 10 prospect, you know, but like we'll see on draft day. It's been difficult to get accurate information about Shedeur Sanders this process.
Wow. So interesting. And when you look at Cam Ward, what do you see in the player in Cam Ward then that maybe has you questioning him? Because I actually don't love Cam Ward. I am a little bit lower on him than most people. I just think the reliant on the off-script stuff isn't going to be there in the NFL. We saw Caleb Williams struggle. What do you make of the prospect in Cam Ward?
Yeah, I mean, I have him ninth overall on my board, QB2. So I'd still, like him enough, but the things that concern me, you have an elevated turnover rate, you have his entire career, and I think people make a logical leap with him, assuming that you can keep the explosive play rate or even raise it while cutting down the turnover worthy play rate. I don't think that's possible. The way he plays the game, the explosive plays are coming from the exact same impetus as the turnovers, right? And you can't raise or lower either one of them without the other one going up or down in kind, right? And so it's like the Brett Favre corollary. The explosive plays, they come with the preponderance for the elevated turnover rate. So it's a bit more of a roller coaster ride with Cam Ward. Then with Shadir Sanders, it's just the steady Eddie. Shadir Sanders doesn't have the arm that Cam Ward does, that's for sure. But elite accuracy and placement, he takes care of the ball. Shadir Sanders had 1/3 the turnover worthy play rate last year that Cam Ward did in a far less advantageous situation, playing behind a Swiss cheese offensive line at Colorado, no aid of a running game. Defense knew what was coming. They could pin their ears back on that crappy offensive line. That's why he was under duress all the time. Cam Ward was in an utterly ideal situation, right? Shannon Dawson offense, the modified air raid. They had 3 starting receivers who were all at the NFL Combine this year. Elijah Arroyo, round 2 tight end, and Damian Martinez, round 3 running back. And Mario Cristobal teams always have good offensive lines. And he was in the ACC, right? It's not like he was in the SEC. Right? It was pretty equivalent to what Shadir Sanders was playing. So, yeah, I just think he's a little bit overhyped.
Ashton Genty, kid from Boise, had a great year. Over 6.5 at bookmaker, currently plus $1.76. Under 6.5, got to lay 210. Where do you think Genty lands?
I would go under that. Maybe not at that price. That's a tough one, but yeah. He's going in the top 6. I'm pretty confident. Wow. Yeah, I mean, well, because the Raiders are the last stop there, but he could go above that. I've heard that Jacksonville likes him. I don't think Jacksonville would take him at 5 though, but there are teams that are interested in potentially hopping the Raiders. So that slot is not out of the question for a trade that would, be with Ashton Genty as the target. So I would go under 6.5. But yeah, at minus 205 at 2-1. I don't love to lay that juice, but
just because you mentioned the Raiders, I'm curious. Let's go back to Shedeur for a minute. What teams do you anticipate being in the market for Shedeur, and what do you think is the best destination for what he does?
I think the Saints would be interesting. They didn't go to his workout, and I know people were like, "Oh, that means they're not interested." Sometimes not. Every single year we have prospects being like, "Oh, I was surprised I got taken by that team. They didn't contact me once." Right? Like, the Rams are a famous team. I'm not saying, them necessarily, but for trying to keep people off the beat of the scent of the prospects that they're interested in. That's why they don't bring people in for top 30 visits. They have this one dude that they send to all the prospects that they're interested in, and you can skirt the rule if it's within 30 miles of the campus that kid played at. They have like a private gumshoe Kaiser Soze type. They're sending like all around the country, anyone they're interested in, but it never gets reported on. But yeah, I think that the Saints are interesting for that. I also think the Cleveland Browns now they're not going to take them too. They're going to take Travis Hunter, but the Browns I'm pretty confident their second selection, not the second overall pick, but the pick they make after Travis Hunter, I believe it's going to be one of 2 guys. I think it's either going to be Shadir Sanders in a trade up if Shadir gets into the teens. I've been hearing that since the combine. Watch out for the Browns if Shadir Sanders indeed starts to fall. And the Browns have an enormous amount of draft equity. They could swing a trade up into the teens. Wow. The other one, people aren't talking about this, and it floors me. I don't have information necessarily, but this is really easy dot connecting. Jalen Milroe, one of the more shocking invites to the NFL Combine, the NFL Draft that we've had over the last decade, where people were like, people in my industry and all this, we couldn't find any information about it, but there has to be a mystery team there. The NFL doesn't make mistakes. So Jalen Milroe is going higher than people think, and the NFL clearly thinks he has a real shot at round 1. Who is the mystery team on Milroe? It doesn't make sense for a whole bunch of teams. It makes all the sense in the world for the Cleveland Browns, who their offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, he was the offensive coordinator at Alabama in 2023 when Jalen Milroe looked like the first overall pick down the stretch, or like he would be one day. His game, it devolved a little bit down the stretch this year when Kalen DeBoer was trying to shove the square peg into the round hole. kind of a thing. Tommy Reese knows how to get the best out of Milroe. You have to allow Milroe to escape the pocket when he wants, right? And he's such a dangerous runner. DeBoer wouldn't let him do it. DeBoer was the design quarterback for runs, but DeBoer wanted you getting the ball out on a passing concept. Milroe needs to have both those options on the table for him, and he's obviously the deep ball assassin. I thought it was really interesting too earlier this week. Andrew Berry, people talked about his press conference where he mostly talked, he said a lot of effusive things about Travis Hunter, said everything but we are going to draft Travis Hunter at 2, but you can read between the lines there. But they also asked him about Jalen Milroe, didn't get quite as much ink, but he effusively praised him. In fact, Andrew Berry said he could be faster than Lamar Jackson. He might be the fastest quarterback in the NFL. He's like, don't tell Lamar Jackson that. And then someone was like, what about having Tommy Reese there? Does that help at all? And he was like, oh, invaluable. And that's someone that knows how to get the most out of Jalen. And then someone else asked him about the system, and Barry was like, it's a quarterback who has physical ability that's different than a lot of quarterbacks in the league. So you would have to build an offense that was. He was outright telling people we have already considered modifying our offense for Jalen Milroe. There's a lot of smoke there that no one's reporting, but I think the second pick, they're either going to trade up for Shadir Sanders if it's there for them. The backup option there, I think, is Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, I love that connection. I should have thought of that myself. Reese, after he left the Irish to go to Bama with Jalen Milroe, got some good play on Milroe. That's a good point. All right, let's stay in that space then, because I'm looking right now, bookmaker 2.5. I'd like to see what the number is on 3.5. Over 2.5, quarterbacks laying 361, under the comeback plus 303. How many quarterbacks go in round one?
I would have said 2 up until a couple weeks ago. Now I do think it's going to be 3, and I think there's a shot for 4. But I'm now more confident that Milroe going to be the first rounder than Dart. Dart didn't. I don't know if he declined his NFL draft invitation. There was a weird thing with that today. They had announced Jackson Dart is accepting and attending the draft. Then today they sent the media a modified list that no longer had Jackson Dart's name on it. I thought that was kind of weird. Milroe is still going. So, for me, I'm going to say 3. I would be interested in the 4, number 2, though. If you could get some real juice on that, I do think that that's in play, right? Especially, we don't know what the Steelers are. They a Jackson Dart team? I don't think they're a Milroe team. They had a shot to take Malik Willis, for instance, a couple classes ago, took Kenny Pickett over him. So it'd be, I think probably with the way they see quarterbacks, they'd have Dart above Milroe, but certainly other teams, it would be Milroe above Dart. So I'll say 3, but yeah, 4 would be worth a look.
Okay, Thor, talk to me about a guy that I didn't think I'd be bringing up that you didn't mention. Tyler Shuck out of Louisville, obviously also from Oregon and Texas Tech, and in the same recruiting class as Trevor Lawrence in 2018. Rumors coming out this week that he's a potential first-round pick. 1, do you think that's realistic? And 2, what do you think of the prospect?
If he went in round 1, that would be one of the worst picks, I think, in the moment for several years. I think he's overhyped. It's funny, some guys, they get the thing of being the older player, the late breakout age, but for some reason it all gets overlooked with Tyler Shuck. So, you can talk about his recruiting pedigree. The team that recruited him, you mentioned it, Oregon, they thought he was the next Justin Herbert. They gave him 3 games and then they benched him knowing he was going to transfer to start Anthony Brown, right? A limited journeyman in college at that time. He had come from Boston College, but then, that sends Shuck about his way, goes to Texas Tech. You have the 3 straight season-ending injuries. He doesn't break out until his 7th year for a super duper advantageous for quarterbacks, the Jeff Brom system. Jeff Brom sends guys to the NFL every year. If you succeeding for 1 year in your college career, 7th year there for Jeff Brom, and I'm supposed to be like, oh, that's a first-round guy. I know he can do cool stuff with his arm. That's never been the problem. The problem is the durability, and sometimes you don't see the field well, especially when he's under duress. That was the bugaboo at Oregon, and it hasn't totally gone away. You get inoculated from some of that in Brom's system, but again, as old as he is, and the late breakout and the durability concerns, it's a guy that I think is going to be a QB2 in the NFL. You can miss me 1,000% with any day 1 or day 2 talk, or any this is going to be a starter right away in the NFL talk.
Thor Nystrom doing an excellent job breaking down the draft for us. Dustin Swedelson, Tom Byrne, Friday VSiN Live. All right, Thor, what else that we haven't discussed do you think is interesting here? How about your best bets going into Thursday?
Man, I would have to pull up my tickets. Yesterday, I spent an hour just like, on my books going through, and I was popping in all kinds of, different kind of flyer bets.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of things from yesterday, that I was putting in. I don't know if I can remember anything
How about
specifically, but
this? How about
yeah,
this? I want to ask you this one just because I know you grind the tape.
yeah,
Travis Hunter. If
yeah.
Travis Hunter was a receiver, where is he for you? If he was just a corner, where is he from you? And how special is he as a talent, as an evaluator?
In this class, wide receiver one with a bullet, and then a enormous golf, until McMillan, and then cornerback. It might not be as big of a golf, but still a golf. Cornerback one with a bullet as well. Like as a receiver, he's crazy athletic, of course, but it's like he can go through breaks at a breakneck speed, right? Like he doesn't need to throttle down. And so you see direction changes where it's like your eye thinks it's glitching, like you're in the Matrix sometimes. And then he's on the skinnier side ish, but like a boundary guy for sure can get off the line of scrimmage and get downfield. And he's a deep ball assassin because he doesn't drop anything. He actually has a big catch radius. People, I don't think, realize this about him. His wingspan's only 1 inch shorter than Tedderall McMillan, the enormous boundary receiver from Arizona. So Hunter's got the really, really long arms. He doesn't drop anything. He's super pliable. His adjustments to the ball are insane. Like his ball skills are legitimately incredible. The plays he makes on them, the body positioning, and then he doesn't drop anything. So you get that. And then of course it's the breakneck mover as well. But he's a next level sort of like I do the 500 player big board every year with the 500 player comps. I literally could not comp him to one dude. Because like the ones that I kept trying to do is like Odell Beckham, and then I kept trying to do the two, and finally I'm like, this is stupid. I can't compare him to one guy except for Shohei Ohtani. So that's what I did, and then I found it hilarious that 2 days ago Andrew Berry, he's like, oh, you can only compare him to Shohei Ohtani. He's a unicorn. I was like, exactly.
All right, how about this? Because I know your big board's crazy. I have it in front of me at MB Fantasy Life. It's literally 500 players. So you've evaluated all of them. There's comps for them. First of all, the Travis Hunter comp's brilliant. It's Shohei Ohtani. Andrew Berry stole that from you the other day.
Did.
You have Tyler Warren at number 4. That's a fascinating prospect. There's a guy, Mike Green, out of Marshall that people loved at the Senior Bowl. I'm bringing up these names just to open-ended ask you, who is the player that you evaluated for this draft and you went, oh my God, he is going to be a superstar and maybe people aren't focusing enough on him?
I got one for that. Caleb Johnson. I think Caleb Johnson is a true blue star in the NFL. Now he needs to reach his destiny of going to his zone blocking scheme, but I don't think a gap team would be dumb enough to draft him. But in the zone system that where you get the wide zone stuff, he's a killer. He's a killer on the inside zone stuff too. He's like a hole puncher, and he gets the yards real quick, very physical, breaks tackles. But the outside zone stuff is where you see all the explosive runs with him. It doesn't jive for people that haven't watched him, how he ran a 4.57 and yet he was near the top of the NCAA in explosive play rate. I can explain it for you though. The outside zone system, this is how did Le'Veon Bell overcome a quote unquote lack of athleticism, speed? How did Arian Foster do it? The same way. It's the outside zone, the wide zone stuff. Those guys, the vision and the feel, you force the linebackers to declare their gaps before you pick yours. That's the game. Those two guys that I just mentioned, they could do it. That's how they overcame their thing. Caleb Johnson is really, really good at that. Caleb Johnson, he ran the 4.57, but on that run, he hit 22 miles per hour on the GPS, which is one of the highest of any of the running backs. So it's like, how do you have one of the highest top end speeds on that run, but only run a 4.57? It was because he had a seventh percentile 10-yard split. He needs a runway to access that speed. That gets us back to the zone running thing. On that outside zone concept, he gets the higher preponderance of wide open holes because of that thing of making the linebackers pick the gaps before him. That runway, he has it right there, running through those open holes. He gets the runway to hit top speed. He's into the second level. That's where you see a 225-pound back who runs 22 miles an hour. Right? Like it is extremely difficult at that point to get him down. He has very good contact balance too. He's slippery. Like it's like trying to tackle a light pole sometimes. Guys just slide off him. So that kid's going to be a star in the NFL, assuming he gets to one of those wide zone systems. He ran in Tim Lester's offense last year at Iowa. Tim Lester came from Green Bay. They ran the exact same zone running system there. Packers run it, 49ers run it, Rams run it. There's like a grouping of teams. He goes to one of them. He is going to be a star in the NFL.
Thor, excellent job. Really appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thor Nystrom, NFL draft analyst for MB Fantasy Life. All right, I was feeling good about Atlanta. Then Miami went on a 9-0 run. So right now, 105-104, Dustin. Miami has the ball. Atlanta's going to have to foul here. There it is with 12.2 seconds left. So it's going to be Tyler Hero, I believe, going to the line, which ain't great. We're going to need a 3 in all likelihood to send this thing to overtime. Yikes.
And overtime was 11-1 before tip-off. So we need a miracle.
That ticket, you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, but we do need a miracle on our end because
we
need the Hawks to cover this number. And if they miss and there's free throws and the Heat can extend that lead more, we're dead with 12 seconds to go.
He made the first. I think he might have missed the second, though. According to the sports book I'm following, he may have missed the second. We'll wait and see here. I am on the stream. Again, this is reason 1,722 to not bet these games live unless it's at a break.
Yeah.
You don't realize how far behind you are. But
I've got +2. You've got +1. I can push.
Yeah. Yeah, he missed it. So
Wow.
It's Atlanta ball, 11.3 seconds left. Oh, you got +2?
I got +2. No, +2 right before the game started. It was +2.
Oh, okay. I thought you told me you laid a point the other way. I
no.
misheard you. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. Oh, so you're not. Well, the problem with that is, though, I don't think they'll wait to the last second to shoot to give themselves a chance for the O board. They'll probably, you know what's going to happen is they're going to rip your heart out, miss the shot, foul with like 0.8 seconds left, and Tyler Hero go to the line and knock down 2 and cover the spread.
Yes, I've already envisioned it playing out as well. You just were inside my brain and laid it out exactly.
Yeah. If you're Atlanta here, though, in all seriousness, do you draw up a 3 for Trae Young and just try to get out of there with the win?
No, you go for the 2. You hope you can get a stop because also you stopped them for a big chunk there while Atlanta made the run and took the lead. You have to believe that, in a half-court offense, you can dial something up and close in on them and push them into a bad opportunity on the offensive end. You tie it up, you play for overtime, and you hope you can overcome them in that extra frame. But I wouldn't go for the win here. This isn't like football. Go for 2 in the win and walk it off. I don't think it works that way in basketball. But
and they're the home team.
But if they get
a home team,
But if they get the look, they get the look. You know what I mean? It's Trae Young. You're going to tell him not to shoot a 3?
Yeah. And it better be Trae Young here. Last time down, they went to George Niang, who went to he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, went to the right-handed hook and missed it badly. And that's what puts us in this position. So here we go, 106-104, 11.3 seconds left in what's become a very, very interesting game all of a sudden. Let's see what they do here. Could be the final possession for either Miami or Atlanta. Now, again, I don't think either of us expect these teams to be a factor against Cleveland, but a fun finish here against the number and straight up as well. So they get it in. It's Trae Young one-on-one right side. Tries to get to a 3. Hold on now. They're going to call a foul here. So it's a foul against Miami. I'm guessing they have one to give at least. Yeah,
okay,
on the floor.
Yeah. On the floor. Okay.
On the floor. I'm guessing they have one to give too, so I don't think that's all that consequential.
Also, a little bit of trouble inbound on that ball. It took a little bit longer than you'd like, and then they ran 6 seconds off the clock. Now you're down to 1 shot. You are down to 1 shot here.
Yeah. Timeout, 6 seconds left. So here we go again with the timeout. By the way, if you're so inclined, you can still play the game on the money line. Miami, you'd have to lay 440. I don't know why you'd want to do that in a 2-point game, frankly. 480 even. The comeback plus 330 on Atlanta. Plus 330 for Atlanta to either score a 2, go to overtime, win it, or hit a 3 here. If I played either of those 2 numbers, I would take the 330 before I laid 4.
Oh, absolutely. Especially because you're betting on the team that has the ball, that has a chance to walk away with a win or go to overtime. If you can get plus 325 and they just tie it up with a bucket here, you can then hedge it in overtime and walk away and lock in a profit. Yeah. That's my favorite thing to do. Bet a dog, have the dog do something right for you. Bet on the adjusted number on the team that was previously the favorite. Turn the game off and walk away. Go do something else because you've locked in money on the night.
Those paid attention to the Astros-Padres. Cam Smith just hit his 2nd home run of the night. So the Astros are rolling. I believe that puts them up 5-2 as far as the baseball is concerned. All right, they're coming out of the timeout here. So will they go for 2 or will they go for 3? That is the question. 1 timeout left for Miami, none for Atlanta. I actually know what the result's going to be, Dustin, before you see it on your stream. Want me to tell you?
I lost it on the betting app, and I'm seeing right now we're tied up at 106.
There you go. The big guy's a little late, but he gets there. 106, 106. So here it was. Trae Young goes right to the glass. Ooh, he didn't get a little contact there. Now 1.3 seconds left. This is the NBA, so you know they're going to be able to advance the ball half, three-quarters court. So this is not over in the regulation yet. But there you go. We should have just taken that plus 330.
We should have bet the damn 11-1 I mentioned at the beginning of the show. Is what we should have done.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, fair enough. All right, so let's keep it here then, because I don't want to miss this. You had 11-1 overtime. I knew what you meant. That's why I said you were sitting on a good ticket if you had that 11-1. And that's, I don't follow that market closely enough. I follow the NBA markets closely, not that one. That's a spread of one. It was going back and forth. Miami won, Atlanta won. So is that typical in those sort of games where you be able to get 11-1?
You usually get around 9-1 to 12-1, 13-1. It depends on the book. It was just one of those spots. I like betting it in big games. I won't bet it in a run-of-the-mill game, but in a game that I think is going to be played tight and also called tight by the refs, if I believe the game is a one-possession game and it's going to come down to the final 2 minutes, and that number's bigger than 10-1, I usually think it's worth a flyer. In this spot with what's on the line, I thought it was worth a flyer. I just didn't end up actually placing the bet. So a little bit of regret.
All right, let's make sure this thing isn't going to end here in the next 1.3 seconds. So we'll keep it here. Before I did the sports radio gig, I thought I wanted to do some play-by-play. That was my first job out of college, Dustin. So you might have to hear me do the play-by-play here for the next 1.3 seconds left. Miami comes out in the whites with the maroon yellowish trim. Atlanta wearing the black with the yellow and red trim, which I don't love. The Atlanta Hawks, wear those Dominique Wilkins jerseys. Wear those.
Oh, yeah. No, the NBA's ruined jerseys. We could do that later.
Oh, they do way too much. You're 100% right with these City Connect nonsense.
I don't know who's playing half the time.
Even the Celtics look weird now with the black jerseys with like the highlighter yellow. Oh, God. It's
I can't tell who's playing half the time. They don't even
all
wear
right,
their
here's
colors.
Miami going inbound three-quarters court, having a hard time. It's a Wiggins fall-away three from the corner, and it is no good. We are going to overtime. If you're on that 11-1 ticket, cash it.
And if we would have bet Atlanta plus 325 when they were down 2 with 6 seconds to go, we'd be sitting in a situation where we could just lay it with Miami and be like, cool, we locked in some money.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda. We still have a chance with our spread bets at least. All right. Not terrible. 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. As we keep an eye on overtime, we'll look forward to tomorrow's game ones across the association. We'll look at the lines when we come back. He's Dustin Swedelson. I'm Tom Byrne. You're hanging on a Friday, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio, 82.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
But getting back to the point about Memphis, I like that young trio with Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Welcome back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Tom Byrne and Dustin Swedelson.
All right, good to have you listening. In for me a little later will be Amy Lawrence, so stay tuned for a Friday Mad Dog Sports Radio tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow. I'll give you a 10 to 1 Eastern Time Mad Dog Sports Radio tonight. Off Easter Sunday. Back with Dustin here on VSiN Live come Monday. How about the Cubs today? Prevailing in a wild 13-11 win over the D-backs, 16 runs in the eighth inning. There were a lot of smart folks thinking, okay, the over is a good play today, that were probably ripping up their tickets. And then all of a sudden, the eighth inning, things just got crazy. I was not on this game live, Dustin, were you?
No, I was not. And I'm happy I wasn't because I thought about backing Arizona and Corbin Burnes. Then I saw the weather report. I said, nope, it's Wrigley Field. It's a day game. You never know what's going to happen when it's blowing out like that. The reality is, though, it was 3-0 going into the bottom of the seventh. 3-0. And we end up with a 13-11 final score.
Nuts.
5 in the seventh by Chicago, 10 in the top of the eighth by Arizona, 6 in the bottom of that inning by the Cubs, and we finished 13-11. That is absolutely absurd. If you bet the under, you're sitting there in the sixth inning, you're like, you know what? I'm the biggest genius of all time. And you don't even watch the rest of the game. You go to check your account at the end of the night, you go, hold on, there's supposed to be more money in here. What do you mean 13-11?
It's nuts. It really is. I'm checking now. Cubs, I'm seeing from $1.40 to $1.60 in their division now. Maybe you take a flyer on Milwaukee or Cincinnati. NL price for the Cubs is plus 1,200. Dodgers still the leader, obviously, plus $1.35. Phillies plus 550. Mets 650. Braves plus 800 despite their slow start. Despite their incredible start, Padres plus 1,200. Cubs plus 1,200. Any interest?
Yeah, let's go back to the Central. So I wasn't buying the Cubs preseason, Tom. The Justin Steele injury only furthers that. I know they're playing well. I know they've gotten off to a hot start. I know everyone loves them. I mean, my third grade teacher called me to get down a bet on them. That's how much everyone loves the Chicago Cubs these days. Shout out to Mrs. Dennison. But I look at this division and I'm done. I don't count out the Milwaukee Brewers. Jackson Chourio, if somehow Ohtani doesn't win MVP, I think Chourio's in the short list of guys I'd bet for MVP right now. I'd also bet on Elly De La Cruz, and that's the team that I would think about at plus 550. It's around where they were before the season started, Tom, but I think you can make a case with how good their pitching has been. Hunter Green's a guy I have in pocket for NL Cy Young at 25-1. You can make a case that if the Cincinnati Reds reach their potential, they are the best all-around team in the division, but you're dealing with a lot of young players. It's a big if, and Chicago has a few more vets you can rely on, and a guy in Kyle Tucker is an MVP candidate. So if I was looking at division and there was a bet I was going to place, it would be on the Reds, but they need a lot to go right.
Well, stay in that space because in theory, if that were to occur, that prediction come to fruition, that means Elly De La Cruz was big time. You could get a plus 4,000 to win the MVP.
Which
I actually thought you might better get a little better price, but
I know he was about 16-1, 18-1 in the preseason. If you can get 40-1 on him, that means $100 wins $4,000, $10, $400. I mean, that's a big price on a guy who potentially could hit 30 home runs and steal 70 bases, which is something only Ronald Acuna's ever done. So again, though, the problem with betting in the National League MVP market is you're fading Shohei Ohtani. The question is with Ohtani is when do the voters start to get some fatigue on just handing him the MVP? I don't think we're there yet, but I am someone who likes to bet those long shots. De La Cruz, Chourio, and even Kyle Tucker, who I just mentioned, all three in the same division. Those are the three of the top names I'd think about if I was going to fade Ohtani right now.
Yeah, I haven't made any future plays in baseball, really. I'm looking at I have the, you're aware of what the Tom Tango formula is, right?
No, tell me.
Oh, tried and true formula of Tom Tango over the years. Right now, Hunter Green would be the leader in the clubhouse.
Oh, I love it.
Which is hard to believe. Chris Bassett would be number 2. Let's see. Nick Pivetta is 4. How about some of these names? Garrett Crochet, no surprise there, was 3. I couldn't find him. There he is. At 3. It's way too early to look at those numbers, but I figured we'd have some fun. Do you have any plays at a Cy Young?
No, I've got Hunter Green 25-1 in the National League, and I've got Michael King from San Diego at 55 or 40-1, 40-1, I believe, on Michael King. I have to go back and look at the ticket.
He's 11th in the Tom Tango formula at the moment.
Yeah, those are two guys I have. So I have had a problem, Tom, as you know from knowing me for a while, where I get a little overzealous. And before the season starts, I look at my account and I've got like 40 future tickets. This year, I told myself I'd be a little bit more pragmatic and wait 38. And let things develop. Because the reality is in baseball, it's such a long season. I won on Blake Snell 2 years ago, NL Cy Young at 40-1. I bet that thing in like June. So with baseball, there's opportunities all season long to get in. I didn't want to do too many at the start of the year and kind of pigeonhole myself.
Yeah, 100%. Makes sense. All right, 888-623-3646. Let's get out to you guys Daniel in Canada A. He's been waiting a while. He's next on VSiN Live. Hello, Daniel. How are you?
Lindor just went yard there for the Mets. Just watching it right now, Tom. Wow, right on. I was
Nice
one of the
update
things
out
I
of
was gonna. One of the things I was going to comment on was just that the game was tied up in Lindor, and it was time to do something. Right on. I'm sorry, just watching that, I just got caught up in that. Right on.
Yeah, so the game's over then. Bottom ninth, Mets
Yeah.
walk it off.
Yeah,
5-4,
Lindor
you're
walked
fine.
her off.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Right on. That's good. They needed that. They need to get going here with everything they got. But I just wanted to chop it up a little bit. With Aaron Rodgers here, this thing's blowing up. One thing, a lot of people, Rodgers this, Rodgers that. It's like that they know him to say these things that they're saying about him. It's like they sat down with him. It's like he personally sometime in their life offended them and they never forgot it. And then, and that narrative gets carried away. But then really, if you look at what he does on McAfee, I think that's just Aaron Rodgers coming out, and I think that's him. He's just doing his thing. He doesn't need to answer to anybody. But just this narrative, it's just, I get it. I get how people might get sick of it, but really the way that I hear these things are like that people know him personally. I don't know him personally. What I know is I watch this guy's plays. I watch his old highlights. I know it's old times. I think he's still got one more year in him. I think that Achilles and the Jets messed him up. But really, I think he's got one more year in him. And, I believe when you see him on McAfee, you see what Aaron Rodgers is. And he's not an asshole. He's a good dude. He's kind of, that's just, look, Tom, I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest, sports, so I could have my take. That's just
no,
my
you can.
take.
Listen, you're not the first guy. Good call, Dan. You're not the first guy to stick up for Aaron Rodgers. I got to be honest with you. I'm surprised you guys want to stick up for him. Listen, I don't want to demonize him. Who am I? All right, to demonize anybody. But at the same time, come on, man. The dude's a John McQueen. And yes, he is holding Pittsburgh hostage. And of course, he's going to go on McAfee and play the victim card and speak softly like, woe is me. And some people are going to be won over by that. I'm not duped, man. He's not pulling the wool over my eyes.
Stop. He's so condescending in every conversation. He's always the victim in every conversation.
Man in the room. You didn't know that?
Yeah, there's always a yeah, but with every situation he's involved in, and somehow he's always the one that's right, and everyone else in the world is wrong in their criticism, yet he continues to say things, and we're not allowed to react to what he says. And what he said yesterday on Pat McAfee, here's the reality. He said nothing. He added nothing to the story. We did not further it long. It didn't develop anymore. What Aaron Rodgers did yesterday on the Pat McAfee show was say, hey, guys, I know you had your March Madness. I know you weren't thinking about me for a while, but while all the other jobs across the NFL for quarterbacks got scooped up, I want to remind you I'm still out here. I'd still like a job. Remember me, I'm Aaron Rodgers. No one's talking about me. That's what happened. We went too long with his name out of the news cycle. He wanted to be back in the mix.
Yeah, I agree. He likes when people talk about him. He's a narcissist. Again, I understand why Pittsburgh has interest because they're looking at their quarterback room like, damn, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
And they've got some agent stars. So, you get them at 8, 9, 10 million, whatever it might be. He said 10 M's. I never heard M's used before, but whatever. Bottom line is they're desperate, but they're getting a sense. They're getting a taste of what it's going to be like if they get in bed with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, already Cam Hayward's had some negative comments that he had to walk back. God forbid they get off to an 0-2 start. Now, I know it's Pittsburgh. It's Mike Tomlin. They've dealt with Le'Veon Bell. They've dealt with Antonio Brown. But an 0-2 locker room with Aaron Rodgers and his body language, that's something different.
I don't mind signing a condescending, narcissistic douchebag of a quarterback. The problem is I don't think he's a good enough player to sign anymore. So I don't mind dealing with the locker room stuff and who he is as a person. The problem I have with Aaron Rodgers is the player. I don't think he has anything left.
You might be right. Yeah, you might be right. All right. Good stuff out of you, Dustin. We'll be back on Monday, which will be a lot of fun for a Monday VSiN Live. Looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll have some good luck with our bets over the weekend. I'll be back tomorrow. Mad Dog Sports Radio tonight. You'll be on VSiN over the weekend. Tell the folks.
Yeah, VSiN live bet Sunday. That will be from, oh God, I got to get this right. 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern, I believe. 1 to 4. The schedule changes. Schedule changes. 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll have you covered across the NBA playoffs.
All right. Good job out of you. What time am I on? I forget. No, I do all the time off the air. I ask my producer. Adam Lockley, Ryan Smith, great job producing as well. All right, straight ahead, Mad Dog Sports Radio tonight. Amy Lawrence in the chair till 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. For Dustin Swedelson, I'm Tom Byrne. Enjoy your night listening to Mad Dog Sports Radio, channel 82.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Right